All right. Ooh, haven't played that track in a while. Welcome everybody to another Beat Boxing podcast, morning edition for everybody, morning calling show that is, edition for everybody. This is your host, Mr. BDA, and I'm glad that everybody could be on board for this one. We are broadcasting to you live from the True North, and let me tell you, we got a fantastic show for you because I was planning on coming here today, taking phone calls as always, and I was planning to talk about the Devin Haney, Brian Norman fight that was just announced, and also sort of recap what occurred this past weekend, give my thoughts, flesh them out a little bit more, because I was on the show yesterday that Bucho was hosting, but I was only there in a support capacity, and I was going to talk about that, but wouldn't you know it, the Exodus Files, Volume 2 just dropped. You might recall the Exodus Files. It was a hard-hitting documentary from last year, surprise hit that came out exposing a lot of holes in Devin and Bill Haney's narratives vis-a-vis Ryan Garcia and the whole PEDS scandal. Also, a lot of Victor Conte involved in that one. So we're going to dive into the second part, which I watched last night. And we're really gonna do an expose on this because it needs to be talked about, it needs to be analyzed, and we need to wonder and ask, why a lot of these so-called journalists and media members and other YouTubers who have way more views than we do and more subscribers are remaining hush-hush about the Haney's association with Victor Conte and Victor Conte's involvement with boxing. No other sport will have him other than boxing. Strange indeed. We're going to get to all of that plus more. Again, going to be taking your phone calls in a couple of 45 minutes maybe, depending on how long this goes, because like I said, we got a lot to cover. Be that as it may, we will be around for a little while, so get your coffee ready, get your drink of choice ready, your breakfast while you're changing your pants, cleaning your ass, whatever. Just, hopefully we can entertain you here for a little bit. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm talking about Jay Will, David Marino, Buddy Love, Real Talk Combat, Unknown Tomato, JC, Sid White, and many more people to come, I'm sure. Fellas, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. There's a lot to talk about here. And before, I'm going to let the chat populate a little bit here, maybe a little bit more people coming in. Again, it's 6:42 in the morning here on the East Coast, and I'm going to go ahead and assume, of course, that it's way earlier, not only on the West Coast, but sometimes in other people's minds. Time is a subjective thing. In fact, some minorities believe it's a racial construct. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so I'm just going to let people sort of wake up a little bit before we continue on. Don Robocrip says it's 3 a.m. on the West Coast. This is anti-Mexican. Well, listen, we're starting to shift a little bit more towards our right-wing base. So we got to be a little bit anti-Mexican. Kidding, as always. Glass Hise says, uh-oh, excuses already? Well, first of all, he misspelled already, so he's another one of those fellas that has to wake up in the morning. Sid White says 11:43 a.m. in London. No kidding. Casamigos Kyle says time is racist. Sergeant says scante hours. Knockout Net says sunshine and coffee. There you go. I myself am more prone for a black tea here. No coffee. I had coffee in the weekend and it jacks me up too much, let me tell you. All right, so before we get into the whole Exodus file and the whole Devin Haney, Victor Conte connection, I want to talk about some of the things that are going on. So people talked about Jake Paul versus Chavez yesterday. I gave some of my preliminary thoughts, and I think Al Bernstein summed it up very well on Twitter. He said, the interesting thing about Jake Paul is, as a fighter, you got to respect him, by the way. This is me saying this. You got to respect him for trying. He really is trying as a boxer, training hard, and he's been quite serious about his involvement in the sport as an athlete. However, as a promoter, he seems to be doing a better job. This past weekend, we saw Jake Paul's efficiencies on full blast. First of all, it was the second time that he got outworked in the latter rounds by an older fighter. The first one was Nate Diaz, who ended the fight stronger than Jake Paul did. Now we have Chavez, which, by the way, I saw some people saying, I saw T Street Controversy saying he was let down by Chavez Jr. And I'm thinking, how can you be let down? The only way you can be let down by Chavez Jr. if you expected more from him. And at this point, I don't know why people would expect something other than failure from Chavez Jr. You got to keep in mind, the last time he beat, that I recall, an opponent of note was in 2014 when he beat Brian Vera. That was a guy who he had a substantial weight advantage over. Similar to Haney, by the way. Weight advantage is all over the place, rather. And so that was Chavez Jr. He's a quitter, and even when he doesn't outright quit in the ring, as soon as he feels that a guy is too good for him, he just recedes into a shell and stops trying. Moreover, he was inactive and was coming off of drug rehab. So how much credit you want to give a guy, or how many hopes did you have in the guy in the first place? That's my thing on Chavez Jr. So I expected nothing. Actually, Chavez Jr. did sort of surpass my expectations because he tried in the last 2.5 rounds. He really did try. And that's where I'm trying to get at here with Jake Paul is you're getting outworked by an old crackhead who's coming off of rehab and inactivity. That if you really want to win a title, even in today's era of diluted titles, it's still going to be a difficult endeavor for Jake Paul to get one of those. With his connections, I'm pretty sure he's going to maybe wrap his greedy little fingers around one of them. but he certainly ain't gonna keep one for long. That's my prediction. And he seems to thrive on people doubting him. But the last couple of days before the fight, especially when Piers Morgan was pressing him about his resume or lack thereof, he certainly seemed a little bit. He started doing the shifty eye. He started doing the shifty eye, and I said, "Oh boy, he knows what's up." I think he's actually started to believe that he could be a contender. When he started out, he probably came in with the expectations of, I'm just gonna try. I'm not a boxer. I don't have a deep amateur dossier, so it's gonna be, it's a win-win situation. I got nothing to lose. Now that he's actually been scoring some wins, he's probably starting to think, hey, he's feeling his oats, thinking, I can do this. I can get myself a title. And the more people doubt him, the more it pisses him off. But it is what it is. I mean, Chavez Jr. Told him, you're not ready for this. You're not ready for a title shot. And that only seemed to incense Jake Paul. Jakey, wakey. He's probably going to go to sleep one of these days. He really thinks he can beat Zurdo Ramirez. And I know Zurdo looks basic. I know people say, he's a flat-footed Mexican. Guess what? This flat-footed Mexican hasn't lost a fight at cruiserweight against very good opposition. Never Sober is calling him Zurdochenko because he's throwing some throwaway shots. He's actually harder to hit now than he was against faster guys at super middleweight and light heavyweight. And he can crack to the body. Let me tell you, those body shots look mean. Mean indeed. So that's what we got there with Jake Paul. I don't think he's ready for a title shot. He might never be ready for. He might never ever be ready for a title shot because again, he's going to be close to 30 now. I don't expect him to start getting that much better from here on in. His stamina leaves a lot to be desired. Again, like I said, he's struggled in the last couple of rounds against an inactive former drug addict who was coming off of inactivity in rehab. And so, I don't know. And he wasn't rolling with the shots. He can't fight on the inside. He just clinches, which I'm sure there's some people in the chat love to see clinches. They love other men hugging up on other men. Shirtless, oiled-up guys just rubbing up on each other. They love that for some reason. They really do enjoy that. That's not our cup of tea here at BD Boxing. We like actual pugilism, punches, defense, ring generalship, the whole shebang. Zorro de la Vega says, never sobers is never sober. Yeah, where is never sober? Usually he's here in the morning. I guess it was a long night even for him yesterday. By the way, before Food TV comes in and says, because we're going to watch that Exodus Files Part 2 here, he's probably going to, Food TV, I saw last night as I was trying to sleep, because I had a hard time sleeping, he was watching that documentary too and commenting on it. So I already know Food TV, he's going to come in and saying, hey, I watched it yesterday, now BD is watching it, he's copying me. Listen, it's not that groundbreaking to watch a documentary or watch a video and do commentary along with it. So, Fu, stay in your lane, boy, or I'm coming for you. By the way, that gosh darn song from Food TV, the one, I don't know how many people watch his show. Everybody should go out there and watch it. He's playing this song that he created, like a Depeche Mode song as an intro for his show. And it got stuck in my head, let me tell you, very catchy. He thought we were going to make fun of it because we actually requested an encore. We requested that he play it again. He thought we were going to make fun of it, but no, it's a catchy song. It got stuck in my head. Foo Sports Live. Very good song. Very Depeche Mode, like I said. Kind of like The Cure, too. Sounded like The Cure. So that's what it is with Jake Paul. Also, another thing that's interesting, Floyd Schofield looked fantastic in demolishing Tevin Farmer inside of a round, or in less than a round, rather. But I was actually quite perplexed by some people on the internet, especially on Twitter. People were saying, man, Cepeda's ass. Talking about William El Camarón Cepeda, who's got a fight coming up against Shakur Stevenson in a week and a half from now. And people were saying, man, Schofield really made all those guys who struggle with Farmer look bad. And first of all, I'm thinking, right, did Cepeda really struggle with Farmer in the second fight? The most I saw is he took some shots, which I expect from a pressure fighter. Of course, he's going to take shots. And, I mean, the hardest thing he had, or the most adversity he had to face against Farmer in that fight, was the clinching. Tevin Farmer, I know, he took a page out of the Jake Paul plan, tactics. It was just clinching for dear life. So people are saying, wow, Schofield made him look bad. Schofield knocked him out in a round. We didn't see it go past that. We didn't see if he ever needed to adapt. We didn't see. So people love knockouts. I certainly love them. But let's not make it out to be as if because he knocked him out. I mean, let's keep in mind here. Schofield didn't look that great in his last fight. And people clown on Cepeda for being a flat-footed Mexican. Well, guess who Schofield struggled against in his last fight? A short, flat-footed Mexican. So, I don't know. People just don't keep it consistent. They're all over the place. And I suspect a lot of these people are the same ones. If we went back in time to 1985, prior to Hagler Hearns, a lot of people here would be picking Hearns because Hearns knocked out Roberto Duran within 2 rounds. Hagler, on the other hand, 2 years earlier had struggled against Duran. He needed the last 2 rounds, I believe, to get that decision. I think it was a majority decision. So people looked at that fight in 1985 in the build-up to it, and they said, oh, well, Hearns knocked out Duran inside 2 rounds. Hagler struggled with Duran, therefore Hearns knocks him out. That doesn't work. That type of logic or lack thereof always backfires onto people's faces, all over their faces, the back of their asses, everywhere. So I don't understand why people are discrediting Cepeda for that. Also, I'm seeing a lot of people calling Cepeda trash. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, how much credit does Shakur Stevenson get for being a trash, garbage-ass fighter? People really need to be mindful about what they say before they speak, let me tell you. And what else was I going to talk about here? Oh, yeah, Curiel looked very good against the Uruguayan guy. The Uruguayan guy came to fight. He was throwing mean body shots, trying to trade with Curiel. Curiel didn't like those body shots, you could tell. That's why he was clenching a lot. But then Robert Garcia set him straightened him out, told him, hey, listen, you got to fight him from a distance. And once he did that, once Curiel did that, the fight became much easier. And he ended up busting that guy up. It was really, really quite something. What else was going to say about that? So yeah, the Curiel fight, the guy, what was the guy's name? Rodriguez, I think, against that Bolmac fighter. Really just outboxed him, outworked him, and then in the end, put an exclamation point on top of it all by stopping the guy. And then the Zurdo Ramirez versus Dorticos fight. I mean, again, Ramirez is what he is at cruiserweight. He's going to be knocking people out. He's not flashy. He's not the fastest boxer who's going to wrestle and dazzle with nonstop movement and head movement and combination punching a la Roy Jones Jr. But he's solid. He's found his home at the cruiserweight. And, Jay Opetaya. Listen, I don't know. This fight, by the way, it should be taking place none other than Australia, because that's where it would be big. I don't know how many people here this side of the pond know Jay Opetaya, although Mexicans, they'll show up for anything as it pertains to boxing. But it's a fight that really deserves to be in Australia. Let me tell you something. If it takes place in Australia, Opetaya Zurdo Ramirez, you might just see old BDA
ringside, Gold Coast Convention Centre.
You might see me ringside at the convention center. But Opetaya versus it's a tall order for Ramirez. It's a tough ask of him to beat Opetaya. Opetaya is faster, punch for punch. He hits harder. One of the benefit, well, not the benefits, but one of the positives here for Ramirez would be that if he could take Opetaya into deep waters, we've seen Opetaya struggle past the 6th round against Brady's. But then again, that was Brady's. That's a different fighter from Ramirez, a little bit shiftier, faster feet. But then again, maybe that's Opetaya against anybody. But to get past that 6th round against Opetaya, you gotta get past his punching power. And Brady's did that, but you look at how he looked in that one. I mean, just watch his face. He was all bloodied up. He had to take some mean shots to get there. So I don't know if Zurdo can do that. I really don't. But other than that, for Opetaya, there's nothing much at cruiserweight, so might as well get it over with now. See what happens. It's an interesting fight, that's for sure. Let's see what people in the chat are saying. Hand history revolves says Zurdo can KO his opponents, but he chooses not to. All right. Wandrew says Exodus Files have just put out another Haney snack video. We're going to talk about that, Wandrew. Shout out to you. Glass Hise says, what does that have to do with taking PEDs? I don't know what he's referring to. Real Talk Combat says, when you're working with a man who is known for cheating a drug undetectable by drug tests, of course you're not going to fail PED tests, you fucking retard. I don't know who he's talking about, or two rather. But yeah, we're going to get into all of that. Adam says, why would you choose not to KO your opponents? Yeah, exactly. I don't know. AJ92 says, Santa. Langsbury Zurdo says, Langsbury says, Zurdo has a chin. Desperado says, if Zurdo can make it to the second half, he has a good chance. in the second half. Absolutely. But getting to that second half, it's gonna be difficult, man, because you got to get past a lot, some quick, hard shots. I like to call him I like to call him flying bricks from a guy like Opetaya. When those punches come in fast and hard, that's a scary proposition right there. And then on top of that, can Zurdo get a decision when he's in Australia? Because you know his hands aren't going to be as fast or as flash as Opetaya, and that really does tend to sway the judges a little bit. And like I said, it's going to be taking place in Australia, Opetaya's hometown.
The Gold Coast Convention Centre.
So you just never know. Shenanigans, perhaps, at the convention center. So that's what we've got there. Let's get into the then. Oh, by the way, real quick. Again, the media, the boxing media is. I was watching that Crawford-Canelo press conference, the third one, and again, they brought in people to ask questions, which is good. They incorporated what they do over at the UFC. They had media members asking questions one by one. Which is something that boxing should really do more of. Because nowadays, press conferences, especially top-ranked press conferences, are just glorified PR sessions. They tell you when the fight's happening, where it's taking place, how you can watch it, and that's it. Rarely anything dramatic goes on. So it was good to see that they're trying something new here or incorporating UFC elements to the press conference. But then the questions, my goodness. They should let the fans from the audience ask questions. I think they're afraid of the type of questions that are going to be coming their way, but they really should to switch things up a bit, because some of the questions from these media people. Terence, what does a win do for your legacy? Canelo, what does a win on September the 13th mean for you? Terence, what does it mean for you to headline a fight at the MGM Grand Center? It's like, stuff like, I know it's not at the MGM, but I'm just saying the name of the place or the venue. These type of questions, that's the best they can come up with. I don't know if I could come up with anything better, by the way. Maybe my question would be so different that it would look like I'm trying too hard to ask something different, but these questions are really boring. And then you have Naji. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Naji, the Cigar Talk guy. He's trying to get Gervonta Davis back on his show. Gervonta Davis replied with a mean comment, and Naji sarcastically replied, "So is that a no?" This is what happened there. Naji said, "We need to do another interview, nigga." So he's calling him the N-word, which is not a good way to start a conversation, especially a conversation where you're going to ask a guy to appear on your show. It's going to go crazy, exclamation point. Why it's going to go crazy, I got no clue. But then again, the guy sounds like he might have been hitting the ganja a little bit. Again, Cigar Talk. Tank Davis replied by saying, "Fuck you, bitch." Now, Tank Davis is quite bipolar. By the way, this guy's all over the place. When he's not running over pregnant women and fleeing the scene or smearing feces across his mirror and toothbrush, he's telling people on Twitter that he's going to beat them up, that him and his buddies are going to run a train on their sisters and so on. So I'm not surprised by this type of comment, but I was curious about why he reacted this way towards Naji. And somebody in the comment section of this tweet said that, look, this guy goes, "Bro literally gets every guest to diss him for views." So he's talking about Naji. So essentially he's saying, Naji literally gets every guest to diss Tank Davis for views, laughing with them like a female, but then begging in the DMs. That is embarrassing. So in other words, he's saying that Naji likes to interview guys like Keyshawn Davis and Haney and other guys. Although I don't think Keyshawn Davis has badmouthed Tank Davis. But I know for a fact he's talked to other guys. And, he always asks provocative questions because that's the bread and butter of some of these shows in regards to Tank Davis. So I said, maybe that's why. I think I've seen clips of that, by the way. You know what? Don't quote me on that. But I think if what this guy is saying is true, then that could potentially explain why Tank Davis replied the way he did. Shout out to the Boxing Kangaroo. That's Carl, by the way. Saying, does he have a booster seat in his car? Kind of like how Gary Coleman used to get around. Oh, come on. Is he talking about Tank Davis? Come on. Let's not go there. Fellas, don't forget to hit the like. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. And we're going to be opening up the phone lines. And I want to hear from people about this part 2 of the hard-hitting documentary, The Exodus Files. Well, that's the name of the channel. The Haney Deception. In this case, they called it The Backward Steroid Case, full documentary. This is an in-depth expose on Devin Haney, Snack, the Reynoso slander that's been going on this last couple of weeks on Twitter and other parts of the media. A lot of people jumping on that. A lot of people commenting about, hey, should certain gyms be banned from boxing if a lot of their fighters test positive for steroids? Nobody asking the questions about Devin Haney, his association with Snack. Ryan Garcia, in the build-up to the City of Wolves card, asked two very pertinent questions. He said, how did your snot-nosed brother, your clogged-up-nosed brother who needs some Claritin, some Allegra allergy medicine to unclog that nose, how did he know a week prior to the test results being divulged, how did he know that I was going to test positive? And why is Victor Conte, a known PED distributor, who actually served time, not technically for the steroid thing, or the PED thing rather, but because of, I think it was tax evasion or something. That's what they got him on. But in that trial, it did come out that he was supplying PEDs to multiple athletes. And just for reference here, they're going to talk about this in the documentary, and they talked about it in the first part too, by the way. None of Victor Conte's athletes ever tested positive. That's not how they were caught. It was all it all came out in discovery and during the trial that Victor Conte was supplying PEDs to a lot of athletes. And he was actually quite boisterous about it, quite braggadocious. He went on 2020, or I forget which show, he's talking about none of my fighters or none of my athletes ever tested positive for PEDs. Like I said, it's like taking candy from a baby. So this guy suffers from what Soothsayer termed duper's delight. He likes the fact that he's getting away with underhanded tactics and that people are none the wiser. That's how he was able to get away. People don't believe me. Watch the Netflix documentary Untold Hall of Shame, which is about Conte. You will see a guy who's a narcissist. You will see a guy who is very good, self-taught when it comes to PEDs. He claims multiple times in that documentary that he wanted to be part of something great. Now, when you get people who indulge in duper's delight, like I said, they like to cheat people. They like to cheat the system, and that's what gets them off. It gets them off to know that they are cheating the system, that they're getting praise for what appears to be on-the-level stuff. But in the meantime, they know they're getting away with cheating, and that's what gets him hard. Victor Conte gets rock hard knowing that he cheated the system. And so what better way now to get even harder and more erect than to pretend to be on the side of clean boxing and associating himself with VADA, but still cheating? I mean, I don't know for sure that he's doing it, but he shouldn't be allowed in boxing. And that's the question that none of these so-called reporters are asking. Why is Victor Conte still allowed to remain in boxing? Why is he allowed to associate with boxing and provide these fighters with so-called clean supplements? I don't get it. And how did Haney's brother know that Ryan Garcia was going to test positive for PEDs? He said, Allah, I had a vision from Allah. By the way, if you're having visions from Allah, you're a prophet. That's what Islam says. So is Devin Haney's little brother claiming to be a prophet? That is blasphemy. That is heresy. And I'd like to hear from some actual hardcore Muslims, see what they think about Devin Haney's brother claiming that he's receiving visions from Allah. Something's not passing the smelling test here, fellas. The smell test doesn't smell too good. Team Batman Boxing says, salute, brother. Real Talk Combat says, when you cut that much weight for that long at those ages, you're going to suffer and your body won't develop well. Boxing Kangaroo says, is he also on the board for VADA? That's got to be a conflict of interest. He's not on the board for VADA, but there's some inconsistencies as it pertains to what exactly his affiliation is with VADA. A couple of more things about that real quick. Hold on a second. Trying to open up a document here that has... So this is the Exodus files. People go check it out. Check out the full documentary, spread it around, because whoever did this documentary asks a lot of good questions and exposes a lot of stuff about poking a lot of holes in the Haney's story and their association with with Victor Conte. So before people start saying, well, why shouldn't Victor Conte be allowed to work with boxers? He's paid, he went to jail or prison, whatever. He paid his dues. Why? What's wrong with him associated with boxers? Well, again, he self-admitted, or he admitted rather, that he was providing masked PEDs to multiple athletes. He brags about the fact that they never tested positive. The only reason they were caught is because this all came out during trial, and they subpoenaed these athletes, including Shane Mosley, by the way. I like Shane Mosley, but it is what it is, man. He got caught using the cream, or the clear they call it, which is a cream that you rub on your skin, and it gives you PED effects, testosterone, I believe, enhancement. And I think he also took some other stuff, by the way, some injections. But anyway, they all had to testify that they took stuff from Victor Conte, and it was not on the level. Victor Conte has also gone on the record saying that boxing testing in boxing is a joke. He's also gone on record, I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast many years ago, saying that the cheaters are always one step ahead of everybody else, of all the testers. And now, if you don't believe me, let's check out this article from, where is it? Now, this is from 2003, I believe. But just to show you, and this was around the Balco era when this was all going on. So some people might not believe us, and they say, oh, come on. This is an article from the Age.com Australian publication. Experts warn of undetectable drugs. World sport drugs experts fear that athletes are now hiring chemists to tweak existing steroids to make them undetectable. Well, we know that. Dr. Peter Larkins, spokesman for the Australian College of Sports Physicians, said that at present there would be scores of variants of testosterone around that have been made to order. There is actually an infinite number of variations. Just by fiddling with a branch of molecules, by changing one or two, you get a different drug. So what it means is that the cheaters are working in high-end labs, by the way. These aren't just any old body that... Victor Conte is the exception, by the way, of a self-taught biochemist. But the real experts, they know how to tweak, like I said, that the article says, just one molecule and you get yourself a different process or a different drug. And they do this over and over and over. There was another documentary that Thunderdome's talked about, and he's watching on his channel, where Memo Heredia, who used to be affiliated with Victor Conte and also supplied PEDs to people, has I think it was Victor Conte or Memo Heredia, I forget which. They had a bunch of stacks of PEDs, and they said as soon as one gets detected, we move on to the next batch, and we move on to the next batch, and the next. So they had multiple PEDs ready to be released as soon as they detected or believed that the testing agencies were going to discover that they exist. Because again, they don't know that these things exist until it comes to light that they are providing athletes with an unfair advantage, which is also that, by the way, that's the other thing that I've talked about when we reviewed the first part of the Haney deception, which is people say, well, how is he cheating with the rehydration thing? Because remember, Devin Haney, when he used to fight at 135 and 140, was rehydrating all the way up to 165 pounds. Unbelievable. That's not normal. You cannot do that without some form of PEDs. And people were saying, well, I mean, he's doing it legal. I mean, it's allowed. Just because something is allowed doesn't mean it should be allowed. That's a question that nobody seems to bother asking, or very few people, because PEDs are illegal because they provide an unfair advantage. Well, if a guy has not only 24 hours nowadays, now it's 36 hours, because remember, they weigh in the morning. So they have even more time to rehydrate for the night after, on fight night. They have 36 hours to rehydrate. So it's no longer 24, it's 36 hours. If a guy is fighting at 135 and then shows up for the fight weighing 165, and the other guy, say for Lomachenko, for example, weighed in at 135, and then on fight night he weighs, 143. You're telling me that's not an advantage? So Haney's just doing it for shits and giggles? That's why he's killing himself to make weight, which is why? Because it doesn't provide an advantage? And then, like they said in the Exodus files in the first part, there's a record of Devin Haney telling his opponents, whether it's Prograis, whether it's Lomachenko, whether it's Kambosos, you're too small, you're too small. So he knows he's providing him an advantage. Well, otherwise, why would he be saying that? And by the way, he said it to Jose Ramirez too in his last fight. So evidently, it should be, this whole rehydration thing should be looked into. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's legal. There's plenty of things in the judicial system too that are illegal that shouldn't be. That's why there's always people trying to reform the law and the justice system. Well, but if you're one of those people that says, "Well, it's legal, so what do you want from me?" Well, why are you complaining? You're probably one of those people that just kowtows to the government. You're probably a bootlicker too. One of those people that thinks police officers can do no wrong. You sound like a wimp to me. Here's another article here. Hold on a second. This is a more recent one. This is from September 2012 from Helio. And it says, use of performance-enhancing drugs challenges experts, remains a moving target. So what we have here is a couple of experts talking about how complex the problem is in regards to PEDs and how difficult it is to detect them. And again, I'm bringing this up because you wonder, why is Victor Conte still allowed to associate himself with professional boxers and provide them with all sorts of stuff? We don't even know what he's giving them. If Devin Haney is being supplied PEDs from Victor Conte, how would he know? And would he want to know? This expert on this article, Akus, who is a PhD medical doctor, said this. Unfortunately, Akus said, steroid use is a complex problem from which there is no easy solution. For instance, physicians and researchers often find themselves operating in the dark, with patients using multiple drugs at different doses in hopes of seeing a greater benefit or eluding detection. Moreover, there is no concrete way to identify those who will be affected most by the significant physical and psychological harms associated with steroids. Okay, so the point there was that a lot of these guys know how to mask things, and that is one of Victor Conte's specialties. Okay, this is one of the most salient points that I wanted to bring up here as it pertains to the fact that the cheaters are always one step ahead. Keeping pace with determined dopers is a difficult task, according to Anna Walt, another expert. But researchers are making progress. Armed with new detection methods, officials are now able to identify those using certain performance-enhancing substances with more accuracy. All right, so there's some positives there, right? Not quite yet, because like I said, one step ahead. Many challenges, however, still remain, according to Akus. For instance, deletion of the UGT2B17 allele, which is common in Asians, lowers the testosterone to epitestosterone ratio and may allow people with this deletion to escape detection when doping. However, the potential for false positive also exists, with one study from the British Journal of Sports Medicine suggesting that a person may test positive for the banned substance nandrolone without having ingested any. Screening for GH is also problematic, as the current test is limited by its short window of opportunity for detection. Short window of opportunity. So when these guys go, well, we're doing testing 6 weeks from before fight night, they know, okay, we got 6 weeks. Experts know how to dose their fighter with PEDs, so by the time they get tested, they will come out negative, but still enjoy the benefits of said PED. I'm telling you, some of these guys are experts. They went to college for this. They got degrees in biochemistry and so forth. So he's telling you that this is a difficult endeavor, even for the experts, to keep up with some of this stuff. Hold on a second. Trying to look for another part here. Finally, let me just show you the last thing that I got from this article. This is another expert talking about. He says, when an athlete gets tested, whether it's their hematocrit to detect a bunch of fucking testosterone, whatever, these values are recorded, and deviations over time trigger a second, more sophisticated test. Athletes and chemists are always experimenting. We always have to stay one step ahead. So it's a race. It reminds me of when people were fiddling with illegal cable boxes or satellite cards. Now they have what they call IPTV, which is these services that you can pay for to get free television, cable television, satellite television. And they're always one step ahead as well from the cable companies. It's the cable companies and the satellite companies that have to adapt. And it's the same thing here with PEDs. The experts are always the cheaters are always one step ahead because that's their job. That's their bread and butter. They're working on doping their fighters and avoiding detection. So it's interesting that the Victor Conte, that's what he was doing. And we don't know if he's doing it anymore. And that's the point. Okay, he did his time. He paid his debt to society. But why is he allowed to be in boxing? It's a risk to have him around. It's a liability. Dana White said, he asked a question in that Netflix documentary. He says, why is Victor Conte still associated with boxing? No other sport will have him except boxing, which is the red light district of combat sports, of sports in general. So it is what it is. It's a good question to ask, and a lot of so-called reporters aren't asking it. So anyway, let's start watching some of this documentary here, The Exodus Files. That's the name of the channel. Everybody should go check it out. And the name of the documentary is The Backwards Steroid Case. The Backwards Steroid Case. Let's have a gander at it. Hey, don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. And I'm going to try to open up the phone as soon as possible. But first, let's get to some of this.
You know, we got problems. Now we're going to look.
All right, by the way, there's two voices on this documentary. There's the narrator, which I think is an AI voice, a generated voice rather. And then there's a guy, I don't know who he is. Maybe they're going to explain it in the third part because there is a third part incoming. But who he is not as important as what he's saying. So let's see what this is all about.
Look at a few things. We're going to look at Eddie Reynoso, and we're going to look at Victor Conte. Eddie Reynoso, Canelo Alvarez's trainer. Also, Jaime Munguia's trainer. Also has been Ryan Garcia's trainer. Watch this.
Recently, it was revealed that Jaime Munguia tested positive for a banned substance. After Munguia failed his drug test, Devin Haney and many of his supporters began posting different lists trying to lump several fighters together into a steroid case.
All right, now this is pertinent here. Devin Haney and some of his supporters started saying, like Devin Haney reposted a lot of things that people were saying on Twitter, casting aspersions on Reynoso. And look at this. They put us at a list of fighters who've tested positive, who are somehow associated or in some ways associated with Reynoso. Saul Alvarez, Oscar Valdez, Ryan Garcia, Julio Cesar Martinez, Luis Neri, and Jaime Munguia. So the Haneys reposted this. And again, this is crucial to the argument that the documentary filmmaker here is constructing. All right.
Under Eddie Reynoso, Devin Haney has a list that he reposted with Ryan Garcia on the list.
And look at the question. When do the trainers/gyms get investigated? That's a good question. If that's going to be the premise here to reach the conclusion of, hey, why don't we investigate these gyms whose fighters test positive? There's an association there, right? Fighters are associated with this gym, therefore they should be looked at. Okay, let's keep that logic here. Let's keep that argument into consideration as we go on vis-a-vis Victor Conte and the Haneys.
Haney has also previously made the claim that Eddie Reynoso's entire camp is on PEDs. Devin and his supporters made sure to lump Ryan Garcia into these lists, but there are many problems here. Not just with Ryan Garcia, but with the entire list.
Now here's the problem. One of the lists that I saw had the names of Canelo Alvarez, Ryan Garcia, Luis Neri, Jaime Munguia, and Oscar Valdez. The caption said that all of these fighters tested positive with Eddie Reynoso. Anybody that works with Reynoso is dirty. So you're trying to use this list, this compilation, as additional evidence to say that all of those fighters are dirty. You're saying that the Eddie Reynoso list further validates the claim that those fighters are dirty because there are so many of them, right? You're using it to elevate the perception of guilt.
And that is a common propaganda tactic, by the way. You just flood people with numbers and so-called facts, and you inundate them or flood them, rather, with so many so-called facts that people have to break down things point by point, which can be a difficult endeavor. But this guy manages to do it. Check it out.
On these fighters. Serious serious mistake here. And I'm going to show you, this is why you can't really trust anything that the Haneys put out. There's almost always something else behind the information that they put out. Now let's work on this. Example 1, Luis Neri. Luis Neri has no business on this Eddie Reynoso list. Neri has no business on the list because he tested positive back in 2017. Neri didn't join Eddie Reynoso until 2019.
So it just goes to show you how dumb some of these people are on Twitter who just repost and say, everybody associated with Reynoso is dirty. Neri wasn't even with Reynoso when he tested positive. But again, flooding things with numbers and facts and figures to try to distract people. And that's what this guy in the documentary is exposing.
You're talking about a test that happened 2 years before he met Reynoso. So his test has nothing to do with Eddie Reynoso. So strike him off. Strike him off the list. That's just like Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia has no business on this Eddie Reynoso list. Ryan wasn't even working with Eddie Reynoso when he tested positive. He was working with Derek James. Ryan left Reynoso all the way back in 2021, and he didn't test positive.
So again, that's true. Ryan Garcia tested positive after he left Reynoso. He left Reynoso in 2021 after the Luke Campbell fight. So again, strike him off the list.
Strike him off. Get Ryan off of there. Get him off the list. And we ain't even done. I haven't even covered everything. You got even more problems with the list. And this is why. You got to take these things on a case-by-case basis. Ryan has a very strange and a very questionable case with his PED test. And his case needs to be taken very seriously, and it needs to be evaluated by itself because there's a lot that people still don't know about it. Matter of fact, before we move on to Canelo, let's take a quick look at it.
All right, so here they're just going to review what they're already covering the first part of this documentary or the first volume, which you can find on their channel, by the way. And I would suggest that if people want to go watch it, I would encourage people to go watch it over there. So give him views, spread it around, because he's asking, this documentary filmmaker is asking a lot of questions that you're not going to hear from your usual boxing commentator, YouTuber, whatever. They don't want to ask these questions of the Haneys. I think they're still begging for those Haney interviews, so they certainly don't want to piss the Haneys off. We don't care about interviewing the Haneys or any other boxer here, so we're going in full blast with this in-depth dossier expose.
Victor Conte, who was the biggest distributor of undetectable steroids the sports world has ever seen, was said to give undetectable steroids to multiple athletes, including boxers. He was convicted for conspiracy to distribute steroids. Now, after doing time, Conte partners with the Haneys and puts Devin Haney on his steroid-free supplement called Snack. Then it's discovered that Devin Haney figured out how to gain massive amounts of weight in less than 24 hours. Suddenly, Devin Haney can step on a scale and weigh 135 pounds. Then 18 hours later, he's blown all the way up to 160 pounds.
Above 160, by the way. And yeah, that's the other thing. Like I said earlier, when people go, well, I mean, it's part of the system, it's legal. That doesn't mean it should be legal, because it's been so distorted. Same-day weigh-ins were eliminated supposedly to protect fighters, but day after weigh-ins and their consequences have had disastrous results in the boxing world, because now they've stretched it to 36 hours, and you got weight bullies like Devin Haney fighting at 135, and then they show up on fight night weighing 165 against guys who probably weigh about 141 on fight night. Like I said, weight bullies, that is an unfair advantage. And if it is an unfair advantage and when you can prove it, then it shouldn't be allowed.
By the time he gets in the ring with his opponents, he's much bigger than them. In addition to this, Conte helps put VADA together, an anti-doping agency that organizes drug testing.
By the way, I don't know if I should get into that now, but Victor Conte is often hit with accusations of being in cahoots with VADA, or that VADA is in cahoots with Victor Conte, a convicted drug dealer. But there's also an inconsistency there with their versions. Vada denies any involvement with Conte or any deep involvement, but Conte has gone on the record before that he did help them lay out guidelines for their testing.
So now Devin Haney
So we're gonna get into that later, maybe.
is on Victor Conte's snack supplements with suspicion of other things, and he's being tested through VADA that Conte helped put together. Devin Haney never tests positive for any steroids or PEDs or anything. Next, Devin Haney fights Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia signs up for VADA and is being tested through VADA. Ryan passes all of his random drug tests leading up to the fight. Ryan goes into the fight, beats Devin Haney into the canvas, then suddenly VADA releases a report saying that Ryan Garcia tested positive for Ostarine, a banned substance, after he defeats Devin Haney. And the last part is the worst part. The fight took place late night on April the 20th, and 2.5 days later, not even 3 days, 2.5 days later, Devin Haney's little brother posts a video on his social media saying that Ryan Garcia was gonna test positive for a drug test.
I was on the prayer mat today, and Allah was just telling me he's going to test positive for his drug test, test positive for his drug test, he's going to test positive for his drug test. Yeah.
ESPN
That's the thing. Ryan Garcia brought that up in the build-up to the City of Wolves card. He brought that up at the press conference to the Haneys. The Haneys had no answer. Did any so-called reporters follow that up? No. They were more interested in Ryan Garcia's naughty words and naughty language and verbiage, or Teofimo Lopez's as well, by the way, instead of actually focusing on, how come Devin Haney's half-white brother, how come he knew that Garcia was going to test positive? Allah told him? A vision from Allah and Bigfoot and Elvis Presley?
didn't announce anything until May the 1st, but Devin Haney's brother somehow knows 2.5 days after the fight. When the positive test is officially announced, Victor Conte goes on a public
Look at this guy.
campaign pointing his finger down at Ryan Garcia. And the Haneys sue Ryan Garcia for battery, demand that Ryan Garcia be banned for life from boxing, and
This was really the beginning of the end for the Haneys. I mean, it all started in a lot of ways when when the establishment robbed Lomachenko of a victory over Haney. That was the beginning. That was the little spark. But then this is what really set it on fire. When they got their asses whooped, when Haney, also the other thing, it was a lot of things, stack upon stacks of things. Haney's association with Didi, and you know what's going on that goes on at those parties. The fact that, or the allegation or the supposition that perhaps Ryan Garcia beat Haney so bad that he made Haney shit his pants mid-fight. And as IBFP eloquently said, maybe that's because Haney's backside was already loosened up by Didi. I don't know. So, and then on top of that, suing Ryan Garcia for battery because of that, it just made the Haneys look bad, and they have never recovered from this. Difficult to imagine that they would recover or that their image would recover. Maybe a win over Norman would help them out, but even then, that's a tough ask. Hold on a second. I'm trying to reopen there we go.
demand that Devin Haney should be declared the winner of the fight. But the boxing world is supposed to ignore all of this. Ignore that Victor Conte was the kingpin of undetectable steroids. Ignore that Devin Haney is gaining 25 to 30 pounds in less than 24 hours while being partnered with Victor Conte. Ignore that Ryan Garcia was randomly tested through VADA and didn't test positive until after he defeated the lead fighter of Victor Conte's snack, Devin Haney. Ignore that Devin Haney's brother publicly stated that Ryan Garcia was gonna test positive for a drug test over a week before anyone else knew.
Allah is merciful. Allah is good. Let me tell you, he'll help you out when you need him the most.
Haney becomes a snack fighter under Conte's company. They make the mistake of thinking he's the next great fighter. They think he's the next Floyd Mayweather. They got him on videos.
Yeah, look at that. See, this is why I like this documentary. I didn't even know about this. Snack System, the official YouTube channel, had a video about 5 years ago. The future of boxing. Devin Haney recommends pro glyco whatever.
titled The Future of Boxing, so they think everybody's about to get paid and bring in the money off of Devin Haney. Then he goes on a 7-fight span where he's bigger than all his opponents for 4 years straight. 4 years straight. 7 fights in a row. But then the Haney people want to point fingers at Ryan Garcia and post lists trying to connect him to a trainer that he left 3-4 years ago. Then you got Bill Haney. He gets caught up in his own stories.
In this clip, Bill Haney gets trapped by his own words. The discussion was about the small amounts of ostarine that were supposedly found in.
Now this is, you're going to watch this part here. This is something that raises a lot of questions about Victor Conte's involvement with VADA and by proxy, the Haneys.
Ryan Garcia's system. Bill makes a strong statement. He says VADA never releases the amounts that fighters test positive for.
VADA has never released an amount that is in someone's system. They just don't.
But Bill didn't realize that Victor Conte already knew the amounts that Ryan tested positive for, and Conte had already put the exact amounts out to the public.
No, I'm saying what you said was that VADA doesn't give no dosage or limits. Victor Conte knows the dosage. He says 60 times the allowable limit was found. How does he know the dosage?
When Bill gets caught with his foot in his mouth on that, he tries to escape and say the amounts don't matter.
All right, so just to recap what happened here in case, hey, it's early in the morning, maybe you missed it. Bill Haney, I don't know what was the context of that answer that he provided or that comment, but he says that VADA never releases the quantity of the PED found in a positive test. And then, and this was on, I think this was on the Boxing Voice. I think Punch Drunk was the one asking that question to Haney. He said, well, wait a minute, how come Victor Conte, who works with Devin Haney, obviously, providing him with all sorts of supplements and recovery tactics or whatever, how come he knew the dosage? And then check out Bill Haney's answer, or non-answer, rather.
When he's the one that made the damn statement.
So the amount of dosage makes no difference to me, because that's not the point that I look for. That's the
Of course, he doesn't want to answer it because he can't answer it. And that's not the parts he's interested in. Of course they're not. But then again, like they said in the documentary, he brought it up. He brought up the fact that they never released the amount. So it's a good question to ask, a pertinent question. How did Victor Conte know this? The interesting thing is, I'm curious. Victor Conte would have to explain himself. Now, Victor Conte, I don't know if you guys heard, but apparently he's suffering from cancer. So it's going to look bad. You know, usually that's what they do in trials, right? Or in certain court cases. People show up, defendants show up in neck braces, or they show up in wheelchairs. So, let's try to gain sympathy from people. So if Victor Conte, I'm not saying he's faking it, but what I'm saying is if he shows up in a stretcher or whatever, it's going to look bad. So right now, I don't know if anybody can get in contact with him or ask him questions. Hopefully he gets better, by the way. But it would be interesting to ask him, how did he know the amount? I actually looked up about on VADA, if they ever do release the numbers. I couldn't find anything. They don't talk about it. It seems like they're more interested in the qualitative aspect of the test results, meaning it doesn't, that the amount of a PED is immaterial. If it's found on it, on the test, that's what they care. So therefore it's qualitative and not quantitative. So maybe, again, I looked it up. I said, how did this amount ever come up, this 6 nanograms or whatever? Who came up with that figure? How did Victor Conte learn about this? The only thing I found in regards to a number was when Ryan Garcia's team submitted their own test that they did on his supplements. They're the ones that provided, we found a picogram of this or a picogram of that, whatever. That's the only thing I could find in the media about the numbers. I don't know how Victor Conte got those numbers. Maybe VADA told the Ryan Garcia team or his lawyer, and he put it out there, and maybe they told the Haneys too, and that's how Victor Conte found out. But again, we'd have to ask Conte about how he found out the numbers, and so far we don't know, because VADA never releases the numbers, as far as I know. So it is a pertinent question to ask. How did Victor Conte know about this? How did he know about the numbers? And then you got Bill Haney, another drug dealer, by the way, convicted drug dealer, refusing to answer questions, being very defensive, giving you the circuitous runaround.
How does he know the dosage?
When Bill gets caught with his foot in his mouth on that, he tries to escape and say the amounts don't matter when he's the one that made the damn statement.
So the amount of dosage makes no difference to me, because that's not the point that I look for. That's the point that you guys are talking about.
See, all this shit is strange. Very, very strange. And that's why Ryan don't even got to explain nothing. He should just sit back, connect with God, and work on his craft. Because y'all are going to find some things out.
When you're on the true path of the Crimson Cross, by the way, all things become clear and all things become evident. And you start realizing that things might get rough for a little while, but eventually all things clear, especially because this life doesn't stop in this world. And that's one thing you realize. And I think that's one thing that the Haneys should realize, because I just looked it up. And yes, indeed, Allah, Allah never actually even spoke directly to Muhammad, the prophet. He spoke directly to Moses according to scripture, but he didn't even talk to Muhammad directly. That was the angel Gabriel, I believe. So Devin Haney's half-white brother, that light-skinned motherfucker, is in good company, because Allah didn't even speak to Muhammad directly. This guy, in the meantime, is receiving prophecies from Allah. Allah is DMing him, sexting him, the whole shebang. What a guy! I gotta tell you, Bill Haney is very lucky to have a son who was able to be good at boxing, and then another son who's in direct contact with Allah. Allah is great. Allah is merciful. Let me tell you.
There's a lot of foolishness that comes with the Haneys and all of the people.
I'm telling you, these guys are they don't even realize it. They're being very disrespectful towards Islam by claiming that Allah contacted them directly.
Has been supporting them through their nonsense over the years. They don't want to call it out. They want to.
That's why some people have accused them of being fake Muslims, by the way.
Point fingers at all these other fighters. They want to do that. All of those people are going to look like fools. Watch what I tell you. They're going to look like fools. But let's keep moving. You got problems. Now they really got problems.
Lock your eyes onto this clip of Victor Conte.
This is another. Okay, now this is the one. You're going to see this one. For all those people that are saying, okay, so what if Devin Haney rehydrates up to 165? It's legal. Check out what his own guy has to say about that.
In this clip, Conte is talking about a British boxer named Billy Joe Saunders. Conte speaks about Saunders' weight, and he says he has questions about how Billy Joe Saunders is cutting so much weight.
BJ Saunders, as you know, recently with Demetrius, apparently pops positive. And if you look at BJ Saunders, all of a sudden he's weighing 180, and 30 days later he's weighing 160. How's it cutting all this weight? In my opinion, he's using stimulants.
So Conte has questions and asks, how was Saunders losing all of this weight? He has questions about how Saunders weighs 180 pounds, and then a month later, he's down to 160 pounds. Then he says, in his opinion, Saunders is using stimulants, which are banned under VADA.
So you have questions. You have questions about Billy Joe Saunders losing 20 pounds in 30 days, but you don't have questions about your sponsored snack fighter, Devin Haney, losing all these pounds in a short time.
Look at him. He looks like an Ethiopian refugee. And then there's that other video that I think it was the day after after the weigh-in for the Prograis fight. He looks like he's dying. But because he's young, he can get, and he's got Victor Conte in his corner, he can rehydrate up to 165 pounds.
Then immediately gaining 25 pounds, possibly 30 pounds in one day, 24 hours. This is horrible. This is actually horrible. Doesn't look good. And this is why I said the people that are hypocrites, the people that are throwing dirt onto Ryan Garcia for all of this.
So again, a lot of questions being raised here. How did Victor Conte know the amount of Austrian in Ryan Garcia's test, because apparently VADA doesn't release the quantity, so how did he know? And this is a guy who's saying that it's highly suspicious that a guy can rehydrate up so much the day after the fight. Well, his own guy, Haney, is doing that. And by the way, again, if you're going to cast aspersions on Reynoso's fighters and saying everybody associated with him is a cheater, here's Victor Conte, a known cheater with up to 20 athletes who've tested positive, including some fighters, by the way. They're going to get into that in the documentary. You don't find it strange that Devin Haney, who rehydrates up to 165 pounds and fights at 135, 140 pounds, is rehydrating up that much, like with a known cheater in his corner, whose specialty was masking PEDs?
PED stuff, they're in a bad position.
Let's look at one more logical comparison between Conte and Reynoso so we can draw a conclusion. According to the logic of many of the Haney followers, they said these 5 fighters tested positive under Eddie Reynoso. Therefore, every fighter that works with Eddie Reynoso is dirty. This way of thinking actually suggests that many other fighters are also on PEDs. This would include Eddie Reynoso fighters that never even tested positive.
So that would mean that even the Reynoso fighters that haven't tested positive are dirty as well, based on your logic. And if that's the case, using your logic, Victor Conte has a whole grocery list of over 20 athletes.
Look at all those guys. Look at all those, not just guys, some gals too. Look at all those people that were never tested positive with Victor Conte. These only came out on trial with the whole Balco case. So these people never tested positive. You don't think Victor Conte, you don't think it's possible he's still providing PEDs that the shit boxing testing is going to be unable to detect?
That failed drug tests from actual PEDs that he gave them. It's not even speculation. With Reynoso, it's speculation. With Conte, it's fact. He admittedly gave PEDs to all of them in his Balco scandal. So using your logic,
somebody in the chat is saying that Memo Heredia is also suspicious and Benavides as well. Yeah, I agree. Why are these people who are known cheaters? Memo Heredia is another guy that he admitted in an interview as well, just like Victor Conte, that he got off the high for him was that he was able to cheat and get away with it. Why are these people allowed in boxing? Where we know that the testing is a joke, and they've said it themselves. Memo Heredia, I've got some articles here where he's actually casting aspersions on VADA, saying that they're a joke and that the testing is a joke. So why is he allowed in boxing when he's admitting that it's a joke and he can circumvent that? And that's the other thing. He used to work with the Jamaican track and field team, and those guys never tested positive as well either under his tenure, I believe. We know for a fact Victor Conte's athletes never tested positive during the Balco thing because he bragged about it.
That would mean that all of the athletes that have ever worked with Victor Conte, whether they tested positive or not, all of those athletes working in the Conte stable right now, all of the sponsored snack fighters are damn near for sure dirty because Conte has over 20 athletes that we know he supplied with hardcore PEDs.
There it is. I mean, the logic is foolproof. If you're going to say that Reynoso and all his fighters are on something because some of them tested positive, you're associating that guilt with Reynoso. Meanwhile, you've got a guy. So in other words, some people say, well, once a cheater, always a cheater. That's the logic. You got Victor Conte convicted of these crimes in Devin Haney's corner. You got Devin Haney rehydrating from 135 to 165 pounds on fight night. Nobody finds that strange. If you're telling me that you're not suspicious at all of Victor Conte, you're being dishonest. You're probably the same type of person who receives visions from Allah, supposedly.
With your logic, all of his fighters would have to be dirty. That would include Devin Haney, Terrence Crawford, all of them. The reason why I'm doing this is because these are the dumb things that Haney's and their supporters do. And these are the problems that they create pushing out these stupid things. See, when you use your logic, you create a lot of problems in the sport of boxing. These are the type of dumb things they've been doing for years. You all look incompetent right now. And I could really fry you on this topic.
He's already frying them. Stir-frying them, boiling them, roasting them.
But let's keep moving. Let's go ahead and finish. Canelo Alvarez. Now let's move to Canelo on Reynoso's list.
Canelo Alvarez was included on the PED list by Devin Haney and his followers, but Alvarez was also included in another accusatory post. The additional post had a split image on it. At the top, it had Canelo Alvarez and Ryan Garcia. At the bottom, it had Devin Haney, Victor Conte, Terrence Crawford, Shakur Stevenson, and Mikey Garcia. The picture had the term PEDs labeled across the top of Canelo and Ryan Garcia, and it had the words hard work labeled across the bottom.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I saw something similar or a variation of that on Twitter when Munguia tested positive. And I'm thinking, again, those guys are cheaters. You got a known cheater in Victor Conte involved with these fighters. He gets off on the fact that he used to be able to cheat and get away with it. He knows, and he said on multiple occasions that the testing in boxing is a joke, and that he was able to do it back in the day, and that he was like taking candy from a baby, bragging about it, getting sexually aroused over that. And now he's working with these dudes. Terence Crawford, when he used to fight at welterweight, even before he started at welterweight, when he was about to fight Jeff Horn, he posted a picture of him weighing himself on a scale, 177 pounds. And he's a snack affiliated fighter. Nobody finds it strange. He's affiliated with a known cheater, and he's able to rehydrate up to that weight on fight night and cut so much weight beforehand. I mean, come on. People are deliberately duping themselves because they have preferences. I think that's the main one. That's got to be the main one. Other than that, you might just be dumb and can't follow this logic. Probably the same people that were told to double mask and social distance and all that.
What the heck?
And they believed all of that. They probably even loved it.
Haney supporters, the Conte supporters, they got a problem. Your list got a problem with Canelo on it. Because since the Haney people trust Victor Conte so much, then guess what? We're going to trust him again here. Let's see what Victor Conte wanted from...
By the way, just one real quick thing. This is what I hate about touching photos up with these AI systems that supposedly render these images up to 4K. Look at the guy on the right here. You can tell they touched him up with some sort of AI software. He looks all distorted. He looks like he doesn't have any eyes. That's fucking creepy as hell, man.
Let's see what Victor Conte wanted from Canelo after he found out that Canelo failed a drug test.
Clenbuterol. The issue is it's easy to get exposure through eating contaminated meat, and especially in Mexico. However, I think that there's a responsibility that Canelo has. He needs to step up and provide some type of evidence of where are the receipts where he purchased this contaminated meat. Did he go to a restaurant? Does he have a chef that bought this meat? Let's go to that particular slaughterhouse where the meat came from. They did a survey of 200 slaughterhouses in Mexico. 58 were selling meat that was contaminated and would cause a positive drug test. That's almost 30.
That's what happened with the national soccer team, the Mexican national soccer team. I forget when it was, but it was in the 2010s, and they got exonerated because they had also tested positive for something. And then it turned out that it was from tainted meat. Same thing would happen with Canelo. Shout out to So Passive Live, by the way. It says, salute BDA. Salute So Passive Live. Thank you for your contribution via the super chat, and really appreciate you having on board here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the show as well. And don't forget to hit that like. I'm gonna open up the phone lines real soon so that people can call in and give us their thoughts on this hard-hitting documentary, full in-depth expose that is exposing a lot of holes in the Haney's narratives, let me tell you.
30%. So it tells you 1 out of 3 hamburger stands that you walk up to in Mexico are going to give you a positive test. Yeah. So I think he's got some explaining to do, if you know what I mean. He needs to step up and provide some type of evidence.
Conte says he wants Canelo to step up, do an investigation, and provide evidence about his case. Provide receipts and trace the contaminated meat back to the source, back to the slaughterhouse. Guess what? Canelo did exactly what Victor Conte asked. He provided 2 receipts, had the contaminated meat traced back to 2 slaughterhouses, provided several additional tests that the commission requested, and he went to the labs that were accredited by WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency. And on top of it all, he passed all of the tests, including the hair follicle test.
What really changed my opinion about Canelo was when he agreed to step up and do a hair test.
All right, so he's saying that. Notice that he's saying, Canelo exonerated himself about the drug use, which is something that people, I don't know, they try to gloss over It really makes you wonder why they would do that if they're really unbiased boxing fans. But he also did a hair follicle test. Canelo did back in 2018. Interestingly enough, this is an article from Dan Rayfield's Substack or whatever it's called. Substack.com, where you can actually write your own articles, post your own articles. He said that Ryan Garcia's B samples were positive for Austrian, but that there had indeed been a hair follicle test provided by or done by Garcia's team. Garcia's legal team, Paul Green, Matt Kaiser, and Darren Chavez, and Guadalupe Valencia issued a joint statement after the B samples came back positive, claiming Garcia had not knowingly taken a bad substance and that he had submitted to hair testing, which came back negative. Ryan Garcia is committed to clean and fair competition and has never intentionally used any banned substance. So they provided a hair follicle test or sample, which came back negative. The results of Ryan's hair sample came back negative. This is consistent with contamination and demonstrably proves that Ryan had not ingested Ostarine over a period of time. The only way he would have had any advantage whatsoever in the ring. Again, for some reason, this doesn't get brought up all that often. And they're going to talk about, again, people ask, well, how come they get suspended then? Well, they're going to explain that here.
When it came back that it was consistent with contaminated meat and not with intent to cheat, that really, and he also, to mitigate things, got the receipts from the restaurant and traceability back to the slaughterhouse. I don't think that he was taking clenbuterol with intent to cheat.
So again, since everything that Victor Conte says about Haney is true, and since y'all believe in Victor Conte so much, then we're going to believe in him here. Canelo did exactly what Conte asked to prove his innocence. Take him off the list. Take him off.
So there you go. So that list that Devin Haney reposted, where all those Reynoso affiliated fighters testing positive. Again, Luis Neri, he tested positive before he was with Reynoso. Canelo, he was exonerated. Who was the third guy in there? I forget the third guy. Andy Luis? Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia. He tested positive after he was with Reynoso. So why is Haney asking all these questions about Reynoso and making all these allegations and reposting tweets that people posted about, casting aspersions on Reynoso's character and the contents found in his gym? This is all being debunked by this guy. But again, it's a diversionary tactic. It's a red herring. Look over here, but don't look over there. Don't look at us. Don't ask about Victor Conte. Don't ask about how my light-skinned brother received a vision from Allah, which is heresy, by the way, to claim that you're speaking directly with Allah. Let's not ask how he knew that Ryan Garcia was going to test positive days before the actual test came out. How did Victor Conte know the amount of Ostarine found in Ryan Garcia's system? That could actually be explained, that last point I made, but again, we haven't heard anything from it. And I don't know if we're going to be hearing from Conte because he's battling a disease right now. So a lot of questions left unanswered.
Yeah, take him off because he's clear, according to your guy.
Get the fuck out of here, man. Please.
And these things happen in crazy ways. Do you want to know why Conte had to talk nicely about Canelo in this situation? Because Conte really likes to throw underhanded shots at Canelo. In my opinion, I don't believe that Conte thought Canelo was going to do all of the things he did. Even in the same interview, he throws underhanded shots at Canelo, saying that Canelo and others was duping the boxing public.
People at the very top of the sport making the majority of the money, the Canelos, the Triple Gs, the Joshuas, these others that are making this massive money, they're manipulating, they're duping the boxing public into thinking, hey, there's testing, so these guys must be clean. No, there's...
So he often throws little shade shots at Canelo. But why he was speaking well of Canelo in this situation? But do you know why? He's being so thoughtful and considerate and understanding with Canelo in this situation. He has to, because Conte had a fighter named Francisco Vargas that went through the same exact thing.
By the way, there's somebody who says that on the Discord they provided receipts. Provide me the receipt from VADA stating how much Ostarine was found in Garcia's system and when that was from. How did Victor Conte know about this? These receipts that this so-called person provided are illogical. They make no sense. There's no connection to what I'm saying.
Yes.
So you got to do better than that. You got to really help us out here.
Canelo Alvarez did. Vargas tested positive for clenbuterol and had to go through the same process of tracing the contaminated meat. So Conte could have criticized Canelo in this case because Conte would have looked like a complete hypocrite, an even bigger hypocrite than he's looked like in the past. But Canelo got suspended. Why did he got suspended? He got suspended because you don't know shit about boxing. The Nevada State Athletic Commission has what's called the strict liability, and that pretty much means they don't give a damn how it got in your system. You could step in a mud puddle that has clenbuterol in it, and if it pops up in your test, your ass is getting suspended. This is the same reason Ryan got suspended. The New York Commission also has strict liability.
Okay, so this guy is saying Haney said it. And how did he know? Bill Haney said that VADA never releases the numbers. So how did Haney know? Provide the receipts for that. And if you can't provide the receipts for that, shut your fucking mouth.
Going to pretty much suspend your ass regardless of anything, regardless of what the investigation says. But Canelo received a reduced suspension of 6 months.
Somebody in the chat says, where are the videos for Ryan Garcia? There's already been videos done about that. And you should actually rewind and listen to this documentary. Oh, by the way, the documentary, got to give it one more plug here. You can't give it enough plugs. Go watch it over there. They deserve all the credit. The Exodus Files Part 2, the backward steroid case, really breaking down the whole Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Victor Conte snack connection here, because it really, it's questions that the media is not asking. Independent journalists like this guy are the real heroes, not the people pretending to be talking to Allah, like schizophrenics. These people, real heroes.
Because they literally said that all of the evidence in the investigation literally pointed to contamination. So Canelo is off. So you're left with 2 fighters, and one of them, Jaime Munguia, you don't even know how his case is going to turn out. So even with Jaime Munguia, he may very well be 100% guilty, or he may not. Because even if they do the B sample test and the B sample comes back positive as well, which it probably will, it usually does, even if the B sample comes back positive, they're going to do an investigation. I guarantee it. So you're left with literally one.
So there you go, strict liability.
Legitimate case on the list right now. One, Oscar Valdez. And to wrap this up, see, the Haneys and Victor Conte always have questions about other fighters. See, they always want to be the one to ask questions. Devin Haney jumps out accusing people. He got questions. Bill Haney got all kinds of questions about Ryan Garcia. Conte got questions about B.J. Saunders, questions about Ryan Garcia, questions about Canelo and all these other fighters. But they never answer the questions on Devin Haney. Like, how is he cutting all this weight so fast and gaining 25 pounds in 18 hours? How is he gaining all?
And even Victor Conte said that is highly unusual and that is highly suspicious. He said that of Billy Joe Saunders. But again, hey, don't focus on us. Focus on Canelo. Focus on Ryan Garcia. I'm telling you, red herrings. Look over there. Don't look over here. Deflection.
That weight so fast with no IV, but still got full stamina through a 12-round fight? Why is he telling so many opponents they're too small? Why did his little brother say that Ryan Garcia was going to test positive for a drug?
I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know. These young people, okay, he's wearing braces. I thought he was wearing those, what do they call those? Like the rappers and all that? But yeah, but he's got a strange haircut, weird chain. I don't know if Allah approves of all that jewelry, by the way.
Test 2.5 days after the fight with Devin Haney. How did he know this information over a week before anybody else in the media found out? Why was Devin Haney so big sitting on that ESPN seat 10 days after the fight?
Look at the size of his head, by the way. That is a big noggin. That is an Easter Island head right there.
I mean, how many cheeseburgers did he eat to get that big that fast? Why did Devin Haney go on a 4-year, 7-fight weight bullying streak where he had a weight advantage, reach advantage, and a height advantage over every single opponent? All of that, it raises a lot of questions.
And by the way, yeah, that's the thing, though. So these guys are always, again, we already saw in the beginning of the documentary, Devin Haney casting aspersions on Reynoso's gym. It's all designed to distract from them. And then when they finally get accosted and ask a question, like Bill Haney did about how did you know about the amount of Austrian when you just said that VADA doesn't release the numbers? I'm not interested in that. They can't answer the questions. And Bill Haney is actually quite shrewd. He's kind of like a mastermind when it comes to PR or self-taught PR. But at the end of the day, he remains a convict. He remains a former convict, a drug dealer who was peddling drugs to kids. And that's the thing, though. It's like, look at this guy. Look at his son, rehydrating up to 165 pounds on fight night, being a weight bully, associating with another convict in Victor Conte. Nobody finds this strange. These are the guys, that's why they're always deflecting, by the way. Don't look at us, because there's a lot to look at. Look at all those guys. Look at what they're doing. What about you guys?
Well, what we starting to see is that y'all got a lot of questions.
AJ92 says, yeah, big-headed. Need to shame these druggies. I mean, we need to teach kids to say no to drugs. That's what we need to do.
But you got no answers. Oh, but Devin Haney never tested positive. Crawford never tested positive. They never tested positive. Why y'all ain't mad at Ryan Garcia? We ain't mad at Ryan Garcia because you don't know shit about boxing. Do you know how many professional athletes never tested positive but were still using PEDs? Mia St. John never tested positive. Later, we find out she's on multiple steroids. Mark McGuire never tested positive. Later, we find out he was on PED.
See, this is the thing that they can't argue with. They can't argue with this. Victor, again, this is the thing that's highly suspicious, and it's why it's dangerous to have Victor Conte in the sport. None of his athletes tested positive. None of them tested positive for steroids or PEDs. It all came out afterwards in Discovery and so on, during trial for the Balco thing. So who's to say he's not doing it now? He came up with an explanation one time. It's like, well, I couldn't do it now because the testing this and testing that. We'll get to that, by the way.
These Mike Piazza, Tim Montgomery, Michelle listen, I could really destroy you on that topic right now, but I'm not even going to name anymore. The fact is that just because an athlete never tested positive does not mean they are not using some type of PEDs. They could still be using some type of performance-enhancing substance. We haven't heard.
Somebody in the chat says, London MG says, next time Virgil Ortiz fights, I want to see the same level of intrigue into his relationship with Snack as there is with Haney. LOL. Okay, so he's admitting that he's suspicious. That's all I want from people. I just want people to acknowledge the fact that this Conte association is highly suspicious and he shouldn't be in boxing, or that people should start questioning it more as well. See, this is why this documentary is good, because it's getting people to start thinking, using their noggin a little bit. And that's what we're trying to do with this show too, trying to wake people up a little bit, trying to get them, whatever neurons they have left in those brains of theirs, get them to start firing a little bit.
We haven't heard any answers for any of those questions regarding Devin Haney. And see, this is why I say that Haney and Conte supporters are fried. You're all fried. You are in no position.
Did he say frauds or fried? Sounded like he was saying fried. They're all fried.
To accuse anybody of anything because of the suspicious history of the people you support and the flawed list you try to use to build a case against these fighters. All of the Haney people that's pushing these lists look incompetent right now. You all look miserable because you done put out this.
Glass Hisi says, is Espinosa a weight bully? He's bigger than Haney. Is he really bigger than Haney? I know he's taller. Taller doesn't necessarily mean bigger. And I think this person knows that. But I don't know, though. I've been reading some of his comments while I'm watching this show, and I don't think he's really that smart. He keeps saying that he gave receipts. Meanwhile, he didn't provide anything about how Conte knew about the numbers or how Devin Haney knew about the level of Austrian in Garcia's test when his own father, Bill Haney, said that VADA doesn't release the numbers. So something's not adding up here.
This boneheaded list without knowing what you're talking about. You blew it. You got one fighter on the list that tested positive 2 years before he met Reynoso, and you got another fighter on the list that tested positive 3 years after he left Reynoso. You got the next fighter on the list that was essentially cleared by the former steroid supplier that you all support, and you got another fighter on the list that hasn't even played out yet. You said you had 5 fighters. For the people that play spades, if this was spades, you down to 1 in a possible. The people that play spades know what I'm talking about. You got one in a possible. You sitting your ass up here holding one in a possible in your hands talking about you want to be at 6 books. Oh, but Julio, it's 2 in a possible, 2 in a possible. Oh, what about Julio? Damn, Julio, it don't matter. You still don't got 6 books. You don't got them. Just sit. What I'm saying is you're going backwards. And the drug case that y'all trying to build is backwards.
I like that, the imagery there, garbage.
Because in all
it's a garbage case is what it is. With this whole thing there, the Haney's casting aspersions, the charges ain't sticking.
Despite that Ryan Garcia tested positive, in my
Glass Hissy says, so Devin came up with 6 nanograms out of thin air. Now he's starting to get it now. Now he's starting to get it. How did he find out the number? How did Conte get those numbers? How did Haney get them? They have an association with VADA. That's the aspersion. How is Conte associated with VADA? Are they feeding him information? And we're going to get to that.
Opinion, the suspicious history of Devin Haney, Bill Haney, Victor Conte, and all of the questionable things they got going on over there with doping agencies, weight, matchmaking, the snot-nosed brother actually looks worse than the Ryan Garcia stuff. So the Haney's, Conte, and their fans, they built a backwards case. It's a backwards drug case because it looks like the case should be on them. That's what it looks like to a lot of people, and the case might actually be on them.
That's right. By the way, London MG says, I'm not saying Haney is inducing with snack. My point is that people never talk about snack when it comes to Ortiz, Crawford, and other snack fights. I agree. We've been trying to bring it up to people's attention. But again, you got to understand, the boxing world moves slowly. I'll give you an example. A lot of us have been talking about boxing reform and actually applying the rules, which are the rules are you got to fight. Avoiding combat and fighting in a negative style is illegal under the rules, whether it's from the WBO, the WBA, the IBA, the Association of Boxing Commissions. They say that clinching and running is illegal. And it's a shock to a lot of people because, again, you're starting to realize here that a lot of people are ignorant. They don't ask questions. They don't know about the rules. They don't know the basic rules set of boxing. And so they're shocked when somebody has that goal, like the Sheik, to say, hey, listen, I don't want any Tom and Jerry type of fights. And so what I'm saying is Showbiz, who's got a lot of viewers and a lot of subscribers, really the leader when it comes to that in the YTBC, started asking the same question. He says, well, how come, maybe we shouldn't allow running and clinching, which, by the way, it's already in the rule book that it's not allowable. And what happened? A lot of these so-called media members started following suit and saying, hey, that's a good conversation, because they didn't want to ask it in the first place, or maybe they didn't even ask it because they didn't even realize it in the first place. So what I'm saying is the boxing world is very slow to get some of this stuff. So yeah, Ortiz, Crawford, Keyshawn Davis, all these other guys associated with snack. That's my thing. Why is Victor Conte allowed to associate with these boxers and provide them with so-called supplements when he's admitted that the testing is a joke? He gets off on the fact that he can mask PEDs. That's how he got out. Just watch the Netflix documentary, Untold, Hall of Shame. You can tell that he's reveling in duper's delight, meaning he gets excited and he gets an ego boost knowing that he's cheating the system and getting away with it. And why wouldn't he keep doing that now? That's just based off that question. Again, I'm not saying he's doing it or not, but what I'm saying is because of what he did, he should no longer be allowed in sports. And yet boxing, like I said, the redheaded stepchild of the sports world, the red light district, allows him to be there. That's a conflict of interest, and it should not be allowed. It should be prohibited.
So now you finally made it. You Haney supporters, you Conte supporters, you finally made it to the finish line. You finally made it to the end. It's going to be the end of your credibility, because I have one more very important list that I want to share with y'all. And you're going to love this. You're going to love this. This list has several names on it. The names are Andre Berto, Willie Monroe, Francisco Vargas, and UFC fighter Kong Lee. And guess what? Every single one of those fighters tested positive while being partnered with Snack or being associated with Victor Conte. Congratulations, you've all destroyed yourselves. You let Devin Haney drop you right off a cliff by posting all these lists and throwing around all these judgments. You didn't realize that the same flawed logic you use to try to bury Ryan Garcia and Canelo Alvarez, because that's really what this
guy is burying them, let me tell you. He's burying them.
is about. You didn't realize that the same flawed logic also applied to Devin Haney, Victor Conte, and all of those snack fighters over there. Because according to y'all's logic and y'all's criteria, all y'all need is a positive test in a half-assed association. So since Devin Haney likes to throw out judgments and repost lists, you let him explain why all these snack-associated
By the way,
fighters tested positive.
Yeah, okay. In that Untold Hall of Shame documentary about Victor Conte from Netflix, at the end, Haney makes an appearance. And he goes, when people ask me about Conte and the cheating, I don't even pay attention to it. Well, of course you're not going to pay attention to it because by paying attention to it, you would have to answer and reply back as to why you're associating with a known cheater. And he doesn't want to do that because he cannot give a good explanation or a good justification for associating with a guy who provides or used to provide masked PEDs.
You let Victor Conte explain it. This is a disaster. Pitiful. All you did was just make a mess here. You have failed miserably. You got no credibility. None. I don't want to hear nothing else about PEDs from Devin Haney, Bill Haney, Victor Conte, or their fans. And since y'all like to share lists so much, y'all go ahead and share that list. I want to see you share it. Since this is a disaster. And the worst part is y'all been doing this type of stuff for years. So now you can see my point. My point is this. There's so much going on in the sport of boxing that you have to take everything on a case-by-case basis. Just so you can understand where I'm coming from.
That's true. See, people like to paint with broad strokes. They leave context aside and they just focus. Like what happened with Reynoso. Somebody put a list of so-called Reynoso fighters testing positive, and this guy just debunked all of that. But people went with it beforehand because they don't know the facts. They don't know the context of all these things. That a lot of these guys tested positive before or after being with Reynoso, not during their tenure under Reynoso. Again, you got to look at the facts. You got to do your own research, people.
Is it reasonable to be a little suspicious of Reynoso?
And it's the same thing with this documentary. Like, you don't take it with a grain of salt. Question everything you're hearing from this documentary. But when he asks a good question, he asks a good question.
So, absolutely. But not if you support a clan that is as questionable as the Haney clan along with Victor Conte. You may as well not say nothing. You may as well keep your mouth closed. See, we were trying to not get into this, but y'all talk so much. You do dumb things. So everything about Reynoso, I understand the suspicion, but you can't just go around piling fighters onto the man's list with situations that had nothing to do with him. You are doubling or maybe more the amount of fighters that should be considered as evidence tied to him or his gym. Really more than doubling because we don't know what's going to happen with the last fighter. None of you will want that done to you, and none of you will want that done to your favorite fighters. If Devin Haney tested positive, the Haney people will want the grace of God. They will want all types of understanding and wait until it plays out. And all it is, I want to hear this shit.
I do wonder who this guy talking is, though, because he's asking some very pertinent questions and poked a lot of holes in the Haney's stories.
You all are hypocrites. And see, the Haney people, I know them. They gonna try to turn it into a race thing. Oh, he's taking up for the Mexican fighters, and I'm not even Mexican. I'm the same color as the ones that's...
See, that's the thing, that whenever people can't argue the facts or against the facts or provide a decent argument, counter-argument, they go with the race thing. They'll call you a racist, but they'll never tell you that you're wrong or how you're wrong. They just call you a racist and hope for the best.
Gonna make it about race. Imagine that. I don't even view life in this foolish way. I view every race the same. Every person gets a...
I like the stock footage of all these different people. It's like a Janet Jackson video.
A clean slate with me. I judge every person by their own slate. I've met great people from all races and walks. Great Hispanic.
Marquis 912, Marquis, by the way, that's the French pronunciation, says Mexicans are snack to Juanito. How am I Mexican and I can write better than this guy in English? Mexicans, it should be Mexicans are on snack to, comma, Juanito. Horrible over there, whatever educational system he grew up in. But now he corrects it. Sorry, man, I got you, man. Try harder next time. But yeah, at least he's admitting that there's something weird with snack. See, they'll always try to get you with Juanito and all that, but they never tell you that you're wrong. They never tell you that you're wrong. Because they can't. There's something highly suspicious with Snack and Victor Conte.
People, great white people, great Jewish people, great black people, great Filipino people.
I do. Okay, we saw stock footage. What are these pictures from, by the way? These look like some realistic pictures. I don't think they're AI generated. So where did this guy get all these pictures from? And I don't know, it looks like something a serial killer hoards. You know, you look into a serial killer's closet and he's got a bunch of pictures of all his victims.
Great Italians, all types of great
Italians.
People from different races and walks of the world, you know. But I support boxing. There are Mexican fighters I support, black fighters I support, white fighters I support. I respect the real fighters of all races if they real. Everybody gets a clean slate with me. I don't view everything through a racial lens because you end up coming to the wrong damn conclusions when you think like that. This ain't a race thing, and we haven't even really gotten into it. We haven't even really gotten into the Haney behind the scenes stuff because you don't even know I could just fry you right now. I could really just deep fry you right now. But you know what? Stay tuned.
Damn. Let me tell you, this dude asked a lot of questions that you're not going to hear from all these other YouTubers and so-called journalists. I got to tell you, it's quite damning that a lot of these so-called YouTubers and media members don't ask these questions. The questions that this same person... Shout out to this guy, by the way. Again, we got to give another plug here to the Exodus Files. That's the name of the channel. Go check it out. The Exodus Files on YouTube. And the name of this documentary was The Backwards Steroid Case, full documentary. A lot of questions that Haney fans and Canelo haters just can't answer or don't want to answer and cannot refute. The old brains can't refute them, so they go with you're a racist angle or you a hater. At least one guy tried providing so-called receipts, but then they didn't make any sense. How did Devin Haney know the amount of Austrian that was found in Ryan Garcia's system? Oh, VADA gave it to him. VADA says that they don't give it, they release the numbers. Bill Haney, Devin Haney's father, said it as well. So who's lying here is the question. And even if VADA did give them the numbers, it still doesn't refute the fact that Conte, who is working with Devin Haney, shouldn't be involved in boxing. This is a dude that was distributing steroids, PEDs, undetectable. None of his athletes ever tested positive. He's a guy, Victor Conte, that gets off on cheating the system. And now he's aligned himself with VADA, by the way. And that's the other thing I wanted to get to, because people always, people have hit Victor Conte with the whole VADA association thing. Because some people say that he kickstarted VADA and that somehow there's some shenanigans going on, that they help each other out. So there's been different versions. I think lawyers from VADA have said that no, Victor Conte didn't have anything to do with us or limited capacity with VADA when it came to founding it and kickstarting it. But then Victor Conte's own words, this is from an article from 2 years ago, November 24, 2023, in the build-up to the Andrade Benavides fight. And of course, Conte working with with Andrade. And look at that. Look at Conte. That's what you see when you're in the toilet injecting PEDs up your ass. And that's Victor Conte there watching you. You gotta really inject it in the ass, like right in the middle. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It's like taking candy from a baby. So here's what they had to say in regards to... Oh, hold on. There's another part here. Look at this. Andrade's blood is tested comprehensively. Blah, blah, blah. Conte estimated that he has over $200,000 worth of low oxygen and high oxygen equipment. So that's one of the things that he leases out to these fighters, the whole oxygen tent thing. Also, some people speculate that when you pay Victor Conte money, one of the benefits, or one of the, what's the word I'm looking for here? One of the things that he gives you in his packages is that if you ever lose a fight or whatever, maybe he can pull some strings with VADA and they can get a guy to test positive or something like that, right? It's not just him giving you the supplements, it's maybe his association with VADA too, and he can pull some strings over there to maybe make sure that you don't test positive, or maybe if they want to, they can make the other guy test positive. Again, I don't have any proof for this, but I'm just telling you that that's what some people say. Also, check this out. It says, Conte, who sponsored Andrade and Saunders for VADA, testing ahead of their failed middleweight title fight at a cost of approximately $30,000. So he's the guy that advocates for VADA, right? And he says he has no association with VADA. He only had a phone call and one meeting with VADA, and that's it. He's not further associated with them. But he keeps pushing for VADA. And by the way, VADA doesn't have their own laboratories. They use other accredited laboratories to conduct their testing. So VADA really only sets the the standards. They're the ones that set the standards, and they have a list of PEDs that are obviously illegal and that they're looking for. So if Conte is the one that's always saying, well, we got to get with VADA, and he's somehow associated with VADA, then it would stand to reason that maybe he gets a cut of the profits, if at all. Again, I'm just speculating here. But then check this out here. Where was it? Here's what he had to say about his relationship with VADA. He says, first of all, he talks about his criminal past. He says, I made that decision to go down the slippery slope. It was a mistake. I damaged a lot of people, especially my family. But the knowledge that I gained thereafter, and I was able to develop a relationship with VADA founder Dr. Margaret Goodman and VADA president Dr. Flip Homansky. And then check this part out. And then assist them in any way that I could in developing testing protocol for VADA. And now that's the most stringent testing program in all of boxing. So he's saying he helped them out in laying out the protocol. So he knows the protocol. Unless they change it substantially, he might know enough to bypass it. Here's what VADA has to say in their official website about some of the stuff that they do. VADA is not, check this part out here, point number 5. VADA is not a signatory to WADA, so we can adhere to what we believe is needed to maintain the strongest anti-doping program possible, specific to combat sports under the financial constraints that we face. Again, they're using other laboratories to conduct the testing. They're not conducting it themselves. So read that again. We adhere to what we believe is needed. So what they believe is what Conte knows is their protocol and the list of PEDs. So he's, in theory, again, Victor Conte, a designer PED mastermind, can design PEDs that he knows these people are gonna be unable to detect because he knows the protocol. And then they go specific program, anti-doping program, possible specific to combat sports under the financial constraints that we face. So they don't have infinite resources. And again, we go back to these other articles that we were referencing where they talk about how the cheaters are always one step ahead. They're always one step ahead. They're working constantly day and night to come up with different PEDs. All they have to do is tweak a molecule and they get themselves a new PED. And these WADA people and VADA people, they have to be they're one step behind or even 2 or 3 steps behind, trying to catch up to these people, trying to find these new PEDs. Here's the other thing about that point that I wanted to make here about VADA. They say VADA has only one list. Where is it? Yeah, VADA, no, point number 6. VADA has only one list of prohibited substances, and these substances are prohibited at all times during the VADA program. So Conte knows which substances these are, and he knows the protocol as well, according to him. And again, nowhere in this page does VADA say anything about releasing the quantity of PEDs found in positive tests. All they do is inform the commission and the fighters, and then they leave it up to them to decide the punishment or the result. So again, it's a lot of questions here about how Devin Haney knew about the amount of Austrian found in Ryan Garcia. I need some clarification on that. Who found that out? How was that released? When was that released? And then again, so we have Victor Conte saying that he helped VADA lay out the testing protocol. He's always advocating for VADA. He knows the testing protocol. He knows that list of banned substances, allegedly. I don't know about that part. But he's always pushing for it. Convicted cheater. Pushing VADA so hard. Here's what his archenemy, Memo Heredia, who I believe testified against him in the Balco case, had to say about VADA. Memo Heredia said This is what he had to say. VADA testing, in my opinion, is the biggest lie in boxing. No transparency, biased testing, and incompetent testing protocols. Can't expect much when it's run by an incompetent, biased, and slanderous Goodman. So he's casting aspersions on Dr. Margaret Goodman, who used to work for the Nevada State Athletic Commission for a number of years. I'll see you soon. Memo acknowledged the reply and stated that VADA should be investigated by the FBI because of all the recent and past issues. He was referencing the Ryan Garcia drug test fiasco. Then Victor Conte hit back with saying nonsense. This is nonsensical conspiracy stuff being spewed by Memo. Kind of reminds me of the nonsense Ryan Garcia was spewing after his positive drug test. Again, conspiracy theories, but he's not telling you why they're ridiculous. What makes them conspiracy theories? He's just reducing it to the most common denominator of, oh, it's conspiracy theory, right? Which is a derogatory term. But just how you can call anybody a conspiracy theorist, you can also call these people coincidence theories. Oh, it's just a coincidence, bro. Well, Victor Conte, he did his time, and he's a reformed guy now. You can trust him, even though he's admitted numerous times that he got off on the fact that he was cheating the system, even though he's bragging about cheating the system, saying candy, like taking candy from a baby. He says that testing in boxing is a joke. He knows that he's admitted on the Joe Rogan podcast, I believe, that the testers are always one step behind the cheaters, which he used to do, by the way. How do we know he's not cheating anymore? How would Devin Haney know, by the way? If he's taking something, how would he know? Let's say he starts noticing that he's faster and stronger and he recovers faster. You think he's going to start telling himself, oh shit, this is what Victor Conte gave me? Or is he going to delude himself like his fans do? Is he going to dupe himself and say, no, it's me, baby. I'm so strong. I'm different. I'm cut from a different cloth. I'm moving different. I got that dog.
This shit ain't nothing to me, man. I'm a dog.
That's what he tells himself. None of these guys, and by the way, if you're giving a guy PEDs, you're probably not telling him either. That way he can have plausible deniability. But yeah, so there's Memo Heredia, another expert, telling you that there's something wrong with VADA. Victor Conte claims he assisted them in developing a testing protocol, so he knows all about it. And again, unless they significantly changed it or strengthened it, Victor Conte probably knows his way around it. Around this protocol. So it doesn't look good. Doesn't look good for Conte. It doesn't look good for the Haneys. They try to distract people all the time, and it's not working out. And you saw how Victor Conte is saying, well, it's weird that Billy Joe Saunders rehydrates so much. Again, it's interesting that they found that clip over there at the Exodus Files because the internet never forgives. You can, what you say on the internet, and these people, they make these statements, well, they can be used against them. I'm going to open up the phone lines because I do want to talk about the actual matchup between Haney and Brian Norman. And also about, and this is, again, listen, sorry to the Haney fans. I know we're really going at them today, but it is what it is. I mean, I can't lie to you. I'm not going to ignore all these hijinks that are going on with the Haney. So it is what it is. But I do want to talk about the Norman fight and how a lot of people are surprised that it's going to take place. By the way, it still has to take place. According to reports, it's going to happen up in, November, all the way up to November. So unfortunately, anything can happen. Anybody can get injured, or maybe somebody has second thoughts about, maybe this is a difficult fight for me. Yeah, now running away from Jose Ramirez is one thing. Running from Brian Norman
Ready
might be
to
another.
connect. Click connect to show now.
All right. Phone lines are open. Let me just put up the phone number here so you guys can catch it. There's a number in the left-hand middle portion of your screen. And I'm going to put it up on the marquee here. Hold on a second. There you go. There it is. The phone number in the middle, right there in the marquee. 320-412-2035. That's 320-412-2035. Call now. Give us your thoughts on anything and everything boxing. If you didn't get a chance yesterday to talk about the Jake Paul fight or some of the other more significant fights that took place on Saturday, make sure to give us a call. And speaking of calls, let's go to the phone lines. Don't forget to hit that like, fellas. It's the BDA Morning Show, calling show. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Let's go to the phone lines here. Let's go to 510. 510, you on the air. 510, what's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, BDA.
What's up, caller? Who is this?
I don't know. I don't know if you could hear me well. I'm kind of on the road, but my name is Jonathan. I'm from Oakland, California.
Oh, Jonathan, you just Lamborghini? We just donated via the Super Chat?
Yeah.
Shout out to you, man. Thank you for the
I just did a super chat. I'm like, open up the lines.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it says, open up the lines. I have some shit to say. Well, there you go. Let's hear that shit.
Yeah. So about this topic, I know for a lot of guys, like especially Haney fans, they simply like to just say whenever they get a little bit of criticism, or when he does, they simply like to say, "Oh, well, he's hating. He just doesn't want to see a black man win," or shit like that. You know. Let me tell you, I grew up all my life in Oakland, California here, and growing up in an area like this, you tend to weed out people and who you should be around and who you should mess with. You know, you tend to weed them out, especially by after such a long time living here. You could just tell who's who. And let me tell you, Bill Haney is probably one of the scammiest people you could probably mess with. There's those types that like to put up a front, you know. That's why this whole fake-ass Muslim shit, I'm sorry, I don't, you know, if it gets you in trouble on YouTube, I'm sorry, but...
By the way, sorry, Jonathan.
This fake shit...
Sorry to interrupt, but you've called in before...
They like to put up, especially all this, like, alhamdulillah, and, like, you know, this is God's plan and all that, and, like, you know... I don't know if people touched on it, but it's like literally your son is messing with a harlot. You know, he fucking impregnated a harlot, but you're still, you know, you're talking this Muslim shit.
That's right.
Every chance he gets, he fucking throws the N-word around. He calls his own kind monkeys. He got like all this shit. He likes to twist and turn, talking about if you know about the P, he's talking about like pimping and shit. It's like this dude is still glorifying pimping in his second life as a Muslim. Do you really want to trust this guy? You know, and I'm talking about Bill Haney mainly. You know, the offspring of Bill Haney is just what it is. He's just an offspring of Bill Haney. Even though he's a great fighter, I don't say he's elite or anything like that. He's a great fighter, but
he's a good fighter. Yeah.
A lot of it is overshadowed by his father's way of doing business, because honestly, that's how he got to this point. You know, that's how people, especially in our area, here in the Bay Area, that's how they get to this point, by scamming the public. You know, selling one thing but you're not. You know, it's just, and it seems like on the PED tip, like a lot of people say, oh well, you know, you don't think a person could change when it comes to like Victor Conte? I don't fucking think so. The guy wasn't I think they diminished what Balco really was. This was a big fucking case. If Barry Bonds and Shane Mosley back then got in trouble, it's like, it's a big fucking case, you know? And I seen what was weird, like after the Ryan fight, it was hilarious. It was like Haney's little brother. He was saying like, "Oh, Allah's telling me that he's gonna pop dirty."
Yeah, exactly.
That shit was hilarious to me. And you know, if people don't want to believe the Victor Conte side, it's like, how else is this guy at his frame making 135 for a large sum of his career? Yet over when he's not in camp, you could clearly see he's a very heavy set guy. And I'm talking about Devin Haney. You don't do that naturally. And one great example of it is like David Benavidez with Memo Heredia. If you've seen right after the Plant fight, they kind of had like a falling out, him and Memo. And you could tell because when he weighed in versus Bosnick, he was fat as shit. And you know that pretty much speaks to like people who are not fighting in their weight class. They have to take something in order to make weight, because you can't make weight like that and still look all cut up and fully hydrated. Although Haney, sometimes he looks like a skeleton, but still, that's, you know, you're talking about a guy with a frame of 5'10", 5'11", and you're cutting down to 135, which is, you know, to me, is not natural.
No, you're absolutely
I just
right.
had to
And
say
by the
that.
way, Jonathan, had you called in before giving us, or I think maybe it was I Am Your Leader, who's also from the California area, and he said that the Haneys don't have the most stellar reputation down there in California. He says that they're not.
Let me tell. Yeah, I did call in before, and let me tell you this. I work at a body shop, and this guy comes in. He has a body shop there in Oakland. I remember he was wearing the Devin Haney promotion shirt, which was hilarious. And I asked him, "Oh, you like you watch boxing?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I went to Devin's last fight." He's like, he went to the Lomachenko one, and he's like, "Oh, actually, I know his dad, And he's saying like Bill Haney gave him tickets and whatnot. This is if you guys want to believe it or not, I don't give a shit. This is what happens in my real life, And the guy's telling me Bill Haney gave him tickets because I guess he's well known there. This guy does a lot of work for people who have old schools and shit in Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, did you really think, I asked him, did you really think Haney won that fight against Loma? And he said, hell no. But, it takes a lot of character, and that's why I respect that guy, because he actually knows Bill Haney, but he's willing to tell you the truth. And I think partly is because, even though you do business with people here, that doesn't mean you have to like him. And like I said, it all goes back to like Bill Haney not being a reputable source and a likable guy,
Oh, you're right. And there's a reason why people ask all the time on Twitter, why do people dislike the Haneys? Well, have you been paying attention to what they do and say? I mean, it's just some people are myopic when it comes to the Haneys, and I think that applies to a lot of other people too, in regards to other fighters. But anyway, listen, Jonathan, man, thank you for your call. Quite revelatory, very insightful and eye-opening. And hopefully you can call back next time. And thank you for the super chat as well, man. Shout out to you, man. Take it easy. Thanks for watching.
You have a great day, BD.
You too, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. We're just getting started, by the way. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like. Really helps us out. Shout out to Maria, who says Memo is his strength and conditioning coach. Yeah, I think they're talking about Benavides. The Desperado says Loma beat his ass. Drunk Cashman says Haney. Real Food TV. Shout out to Food TV. Food Sports Live says Haney looking crazy. Yeah, he doesn't look like he's in the... It looks like the elevator doesn't go all the way up to the last floor. That's what he looks like. AD Solo says, NFL and NBA wanted nothing to do with Victor, but boxing allows this man to hang around, knowing that he's a cheating piece of shit. I mean, that's what Dana White said. Look, I don't like Dana White. I really don't. He's not my favorite person. But he asked a good question when he said, why is that dude allowed in boxing? No other sport will have him. Just like Ad Solo said. NFL, NBA, they don't want nothing to do with him because they know, look, they're major sports. They got sponsorships. They're more watched across the United States than boxing. So they have more to lose by associating with Victor Conte. But boxing, it's a little corner of the sports world. It's like it's underneath the refrigerator. We get all the cockroaches because it's nice and warm and the cockroaches can hide under there. That's what boxing is. Why do you think we're in boxing? You think we're not cockroaches as well? We're just not as bad as Victor Conte and all those other people. Never Sobers says, Bill eats the turkey's ass. Come on. Sobers, are you there, man?
Yo, what's up?
What's up? Why would you leave those type of comments? Those comments are outrageous, uncalled for, and I dare say unchristian. But yeah, listen.
Because the guy who called in said, he's like, I don't care if you believe me or not. I saw what I saw. So I thought he was gonna say something crazy. You know what I mean? But the guy, he just said that the dude thought that Loma beat Devin, right? So I mean, whatever. That's not that. I don't think that's that crazy.
Well,
but there's one thing that he said about. There's one thing he mentioned about Memo Heredia, and what's the other fool's name? David Benavides, and why they can't get a working relationship. I think it has to do with the dad, right? And if you see what the pops is, the lady he's married to, like David's stepmom, she's a fitness girl, right? And she helped. I seen an interview where, Jose Benavides talks about where she helped him and encouraged him open up his gym, and she basically put the paperwork for him and everything. She pushed him to do it, and now he has a boxing gym. He has fighters there, and like I mentioned, the girl is a fitness woman. So seeing that, and your son's a boxer, whatever, and these guys probably want to keep money. He's a little money hungry, so he probably tries to keep it in house. And be like, oh no, my wife can help you lose weight. She'll get you on point. You don't gotta waste all that money on this dumb this dumb strength and conditioning dude. We can do that. We have our own gym. We can do it ourselves, and we'll help you make weight. You know what I'm saying? But they don't. I guess they don't have that special sauce that Heredia has. So that's what you see. That's why you see him looking flabby. You know what I mean? That's what I think.
Heredia, contrary to Victor Conte, actually has degrees in biochemistry, and he knows his stuff. He's another guy that I don't know why they allow him to be in boxing. He's also admitted in an interview that he received duper's delight from cheating, and he knows how. And
he's a boxing alchemist.
He's a boxing alchemist. That's right, transmuting his fighters into higher beings. And that's the other thing, though. He knows that. He said it himself. I posted the comments he made about VADA. And he says that VADA is a joke and that they are corrupt and that they should be investigated by the FBI. So if you can't trust VADA, who can you trust? And so that's what we arrive at when it comes to boxing, that there's cheaters and you're not going to be able to catch them. Shout out to Jonathan Lamborena for his contribution to the Super Chat. He says, Benavides' stepmom can get it. Come on. Let's remain respectful here. Come on.
No, she's pretty. Pretty well for himself. When you look at David's mom and the new one, he did pretty well for himself.
Okay,
but the bottom line.
Well, hold on.
The bottom line, BDA.
I think what Jonathan means when he says she can get it, she can get a nice bouquet of flowers. I think that's what he meant. He didn't mean anything dirty or salacious. But go ahead, Sobers. Go ahead. What are you going to say? Oh, Sobers muted himself now. He's probably at the Mexican market getting some of that tainted meat. He wants to get some of those Canelo results. That's what he wants. He wants to look like Devin Haney. That's what Sobers is doing. I don't know if you noticed, Sobers, but you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Oh, I am. Well, I was going to say, though, the bottom line about the drug testing and the drug situation in boxing, it's a complete joke. It's the Wild West. They act like they have control of anything, but they don't.
Absolutely.
So all these guys get away with whatever they want, whatever they can.
I mean, it's the Wild West, like you said. It's these guys even admit it. And by introducing people have tried. I think Bill Haney tried to say that, like, well, if you. By the way, I don't know why he went to this example, but he says if you get a chomo, a convicted chomo, the FBI will work with him, to try to get information. It's like, okay, yeah, then maybe. First of all, I don't know what type of information a chomo is going to give you, what inside information. But if the FBI is working with a chomo, what they're not going to allow is to have that chomo working in a school or with kids. And that's the same thing here with Victor Conte and Memo Heredia. These guys were giving athletes PEDs, and they were masking the PEDs. They never tested positive. Their athletes never tested positive. So you're putting them back in a sport where we know that testing is a joke. They could be giving their fighters anything, and we wouldn't know about it. Their fighters wouldn't know about it either. So why is this being allowed? Same thing with a chomo. Why would you allow you can ask the chomo questions to try to get an insight into the chomo mindset, but you're certainly not gonna allow them to work with kids.
Chomo mindset,
right? But we're gonna allow them to work with kids. So why are Conte and Heredia allowed to work with boxers? It's nonsensical. Just completely nonsensical. And Sobers, I caught a little bit yesterday of you. I think you were on the panel with Food TV watching this hard-hitting expose from the Exodus files. I think you suggested it to him, by the way. I think that's what I heard you say. The Backwards Steroid Case is the name of the documentary. Did you watch all of it?
I didn't get to watch all of it completely, right? Because I had to leave and do something, but I came back. I got the general gist of it. It's a good video. You know what I mean? It's a lot of stuff that we kind of talk about, that we touch on here, but it's in like a focused format where this is the subject. We're gonna break down this steroid, like the steroid allegations that are surrounding Canelo's camp, and like the channel kind of focuses on exposing the Haneys, right? That they're saying, okay, well, you guys are honing in on all these Mexicans that are kind of getting, these separate Mexicans that aren't really connected to each other, like Luis Neri Canelo Alvarez and Jaime Munguia. Like, you know, you're grouping them. They're grouping them all together, saying, "Oh, look, this is all evidence that Eddie Reynoso is dirty." But then, while clearly ignoring all the evidence that, like you just brought up about Victor Conte, Heredia, like all these Americans that are clearly cheating, and no one gives a shit.
You know, I brought that up too earlier, Sobers, about how long have a lot of us been talking about implementing the rules in terms of preventing running, dipping below the waist, clinching. These so-called boxing people, they never talk about that. Showbiz starts talking about it. All of a sudden, hey, yeah, that's a conversation we should start having. These people are followers. They don't either they don't know the rules and they never thought about the fact that, hey, maybe if you really want to make boxing entertaining again, you should apply the rules. They never thought about that. Or they thought about it, but they didn't want to rock the boat. And it's only until Showbiz took the horse by the reins and said, hey, we gotta start fucking changing things here. We gotta start applying the rules. Then all of a sudden, oh yeah, let's have that conversation. These people are followers. And
I don't like that either, BDA.
What's that?
I don't like that either. You know, all of a sudden this show bitch starts talking about there's no running rule and all that. Like, man, put your fucking eyes back in your skull before you fucking make somebody throw up. All right. Like, no, I don't like all of a sudden he has this new opinion about boxing. That's how you can tell this dude doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, because he's one of those guys that loves the Devin Haney style and, oh, you got to catch him, and, you know, oh, I love Floyd and blah, blah, blah. And now that Turkey's starting to say something, and then you know whose payroll this guy's on, right? He's getting paid from DAZN now. All of a sudden, as soon as Turkey says no more Tom and Jerry shit, there's no running rule comes out. We've been talking about that for y'all been talking about it for longer than I've been involved with this show, right? Because you'd have Furioso with the back foot bitch shit. He coined that term, right? That's so this has been talked about for years at this point, and all of a sudden now that someone is getting a little bit of money and you know, Turkey's opinions influence him. Now, you know what I mean? I don't like it's fake. It's just fake as hell. I don't think that dude's even a real boxing fan. Another one of these dudes that got into boxing like in his mid-30s. What the hell is that even about? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't trust anybody like that.
Well, you know what? You bring some interesting points there that I hadn't considered. That he only started questioning that when the Sheik did. So yeah, you're right. I guess I was giving him credit for really pushing this, but then you brought that up, and the fact that he only started doing it when the Sheik did it as well. So that is sort of interesting about that. I will say this though. I was very displeased by how some people go at him. Again, race fans. They start talking about how he hates Afro-Anglo fighters. Meanwhile, he's an Afro-Anglo. Well, then they reply, he's a self-hating Afro-Anglo. And it was just, you know, that people were calling him an Uncle Tom, house N-word, just a whole bunch of negative and really distasteful things. And
he kind of is all those things, BDA.
Nah, come on. But you know, people were coming at him with those things. They were going after his wife, saying, "Oh, classic Afro-Anglo, self-hating Afro-Anglo, going out with a non-Afro-Anglo."
Married a white woman, yeah.
And that's the thing. So people call him that, and then somebody's going, "Oh, you know, his kids are probably gonna be ugly as fuck like him too." And come on, Sobers, don't laugh.
What
at
the fuck, BDA?
Yeah, that's what I say. Why are you laughing at that? It's not funny. But you know, no, it's not funny as fuck, Sobers. Come on. Well, it's. I mean, this is a man's reputation that they're playing with, and I don't like it.
It's not funny though.
No, it's not funny, Sobers. What's the matter with you? Do you even understand what I'm talking about here? Stop coughing, man. What the fuck? Now, by the way, I'm playing. That's not Sobers really laughing. I'm playing sound effects. I'm playing sound effects. I took a couple of your laughs from one of your last streams. So yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, bro. I do sound evil. That is jarring.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Ah, shit. I almost fucked up one of these.
What an asshole, bro.
Ah, come on. But what I was gonna say was okay. Yeah. So I wanted to touch on something there that you brought up too before you started excoriating Showbiz. I wanted to talk about the Haneys, because I don't know if you remember in the last couple of morning episodes, we were talking about how the Haneys, after the Ryan Garcia debacle, lost a lot of pull with people. People don't respect them anymore. A lot of people don't respect them. Then on top of that, they came back and they refused a lot of fights because they said those fights were beneath them. Eddie Hearn then said, and other people said, I think Paro said that they were asking for too much money. Eddie Hearn then came out and said, hey, The Haney spent all their Ryan Garcia money, and that's why they were incredibly displeased that Ryan Garcia lost to Romero because they lost that paycheck. And that's why then they were also extra pissed when Teofimo Lopez told him to go kick rocks, gave him a taste of their own medicine. So now they're desperate for a payday. That's why some people are speculating. That's why the Haneys are now fighting Brian Norman because they're desperate. Other people say, hey, they never take a fight unless they have
that's a dangerous fight.
Yeah, but then other people say that the Haneys never take a fight unless they see an advantage. So what do you think? Do you think Eddie Hearn's correct that these people are desperate now and that's what they're looking for the Norman fight?
Yeah, because if look, that last fight with Jose Ramirez really gave him a bad look, and then on top of what Turkey said afterwards with the Tom and Jerry comments and no more of this shit, I don't think Ryan Garcia. He also blew his chance. They kind of destroyed that rematch, right? And they're both harping on it. They're both counting on it. They're probably spending their money, thinking that they're going to fight each other again, saying like, "Oh, it's okay. I got plenty coming in." And Devin Haney's married to a prostitute, so that can't be cheap. And but there's one thing that I wanted to say real quick about what's his name, Showbitch, right? Because you were saying everybody calls him an Uncle Tom and they attack him, whatever. But I honestly do think he's kind of those things, right? Because look, you seen these videos of YouTubers that get pretty big, like Mr. Beast or whatever, and they get associated with like weirdos and they attack one of their fans, they assault them, behind stage or something weird happens, right? And then they have to release this YouTube apology video where they're like in a room by themselves. And like they have their back to the camera, they turn around, they go, "Hey, you guys, some things happened recently, and I need to talk about it." They do this whole little fake ass spiel about apologizing and being a better person. This guy, Showbiz, did the exact same thing, right after Ryan Garcia went on his little tirade saying "F Muslims, F these people, ninjas and all that," right? When he was being racist, his racist little rants, people are saying, "Hey, bro, how you still cool with this guy? He said this about black people," and then he releases an apology video, saying why it's okay for him to be Ryan Garcia's fan and it's okay for him to keep supporting him after he did that shit. So in a way, yeah, he is kind of that is that's some fucking Uncle Tom shit. You know what I mean? So
you know what? That's an interesting point right there. And I just want to talk about, I can't talk about Showbiz because I don't know the guy. I really don't watch a lot of his stuff, so I'm going to take your word for it. I can only speak about myself. And look, in terms of Ryan Garcia, we were making fun of him here back in 2018, calling him a twink, calling him a bipolar twink. He was demented. And I've always been consistent with that. That's why when he went on his tirade, racial tirade, which people have a right to be offended about, by the way. I mean, he said some despicable things. But I was unsurprised because I always knew he was that type of guy. The only reason why I sort of started liking a little bit of what he did was when what he pulled with the Haneys, because he gave him a taste of their own medicine. But I was always consistent saying this dude is going to turn on De La Hoya, which he just did, by the way, recently. He turned on De La Hoya again. He's always blaming others for his faults and for his misdeeds. So people, I don't understand. Again, I don't know what people see. People look at a guy like Ryan Garcia and then they're surprised when he acts like a maniac. Same thing with Teofimo Lopez. We were always saying this dude is a tryhard. He's a jerk-off. Wow, people are surprised. And I've been saying it too about Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford is not as bad as these people in terms of what things he says, but there's a lot to look into in Terrence Crawford. Especially, like I said, when we're just talking about Victor Conte. But people it's going to come out one day probably, and then people are going to say, oh my God, I can't believe it. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of people who were pointing it out and pointing out some of the smoke that's there. When they say when there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah, I saw that what you sent me there about Ryan Garcia. And by the way, real quick, people, Sobers just sent me this, what De La Hoya said about Ryan Garcia, because Ryan Garcia came out and said, fuck De La Hoya and blah, blah, blah. And then De La Hoya said he's having a manic episode or something. And I'm thinking, well, why would you say that? Somebody else mentioned that. I think it was Fresh Prince in the Discord. Say, why would De La Hoya put that out there too? Like, look, De La Hoya said, unfortunately, Ryan Garcia is having another episode. 10 days ago, he's talking about God and finding his path. Then tonight, he sends me this rant while watching his fellow Golden Boy fighters win. Bipolar disorder is very serious, and I hope he gets the help he needs. It's almost like he's being passive-aggressive, isn't it there, Sobers?
Yeah, he's trying to keep Ryan Garcia on the ropes.
I like how you apply the boxing terminology there. He's keeping him on the ropes. Oh man.
But yeah, he just did you But yeah, I'm not sure what that is about. It's like he's being like a manipulative dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is what would your dead mother think? You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
This is why she did that to herself, whatever. That's not what the situation is, right? But I'm saying like he's trying to manipulate it in a way. Saying, look, this is why you're a retard. You know what I mean? Look, everybody, look how stupid my son is. This is what I have to deal with every day. So he's like kind of, in a way, I guess he's kind of gaslighting him in a way, right? That's the word?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, these two have an acrimonious relationship and it's not going to end well. I really doubt that it's going to end well. Both guys are crazy. Deloy and Ryan Garcia are crazy. That's why I recognize his theories that Deloy is actually Ryan Garcia's father, biological father. Because Ryan Garcia looks more like Deloy than he does with his supposedly biological father. So anyway, enough about these two. They're irrelevant right now. What I want to talk about, because I mean, there's other stuff to talk about. That's all I'm saying. And
Ringside, Gold Coast Convention Centre.
That's not what I want. What the hell is that? Anyway, what I wanted to say was, back to the Haney thing. I'm surprised that the Haney finally went after Norman Jr. And the only thing I can imagine is, or speculate on, is that, they're desperate for a fight. Or maybe they saw something that they think they can take advantage of against Norman Jr. Because Julian Chula, no, what's his name? I forget his name. Chula.
Julian Chula? What you call him?
No. Yeah. Yeah, I call him Chula. Julian Chua. Is that his name? That Surdo
fight on try to box. Go ahead.
I didn't say anything. Sorry, it's because my internet cut off. But go ahead, Sobers. Yeah, I think we're back.
So so I was saying, I think that the Haneys might see something in what I think they see in Norman Jr. is that he's a smaller dude for the weight class. He's kind of short, and he has problems with guys who can move. So they probably think that they can take advantage of him. They're probably looking at him like a pro grade, like a stronger pro grade, and they think, we can handle that as long as we stay away. But I don't think that's the case, right? I don't think that's the case with this guy. I think Norman, if he catches Haney, he's going to hurt him. I really do think he's going to hurt him. This dude is not built for war. He's just kind of soft. He's like a little fucking, I don't know, like a fucking little black jelly bean. He sucks, bro. He's soft.
Well, people say that, again, the two sides to this coin is that the Haney sees something, and that's because, again, you mentioned pro grade. That's what I was thinking. I said the last time they fought a hard-hitting guy who had a lot of pull going into the fight was Regis Prograde. But there's a bit of a caveat to that because what's his name? When they fought Prograde, they only fought Prograde after he finally looked bad in a fight, and he looked bad in that Zorrilla fight. And again, I give Devin Haney credit because Zorrilla versus Prograde was close enough that they could give it to Prograde, even though I thought Zorrilla edged it, but whatever. But Haney comprehensively outboxed Prograde, so I give him credit for that. However, like I said, context. They only took that fight once Prograde looked bad against Zorrilla. And Bill Haney was in the crowd. You could take a look at his ugly mug. You couldn't miss it right there in the audience. So once they saw, hey, this guy looks bad, we can actually outbox him. Because before that, Prograde was looking invincible. Then as soon as he looks bad, boom, the Haneys fight him. Norman, he hasn't looked bad yet. But like you said, against Chihuahua, or what was his name? Chorilla? I forget the guy's name, the Puerto Rican guy.
Chorica or some shit like that. It's some weird name.
Yeah, Chorizo, whatever. Chorizo dropped him. And that's really...
Chorizo dropped him?
He dropped the chorizo on him.
Boachica or some shit.
Yeah, Boachica, something like that. And he dropped him, and that dude was more of a boxer, long-range guy. So maybe the Haneys think they can do the same thing to Brian Norman. And it's true, we haven't really seen Norman have to chase a guy down. This last guy that he fought, Sasaki, and... the fight, not the fight before that, but the one before that in 2024, which was against Santillan, which was a war, but that was against a come forward guy. So I don't know if he can cut the ring off. He can corner a guy. Does he jump when he's fighting a long range boxer? Does he jump from too far behind and telegraph his shots? I don't know. One thing's for sure though, Norman is a strong guy. Brian the Norman fights like a Norman. This dude, when he fought Santillan, he beat Santillan at his own game. And then these last dudes, Sasika, no, what was his name I said? Sasaki. Sasaki has a heavy left hook upstairs into the body. And when he hit Norman with some of those shots, Norman took him and he barely moved. Those shots barely nudged him. He just took him. And that's a strong guy. You can tell he's got a strong core. He's a strong welterweight. He's what we call in boxing gyms an iceberg. Like reminiscent, I know people are going to think this is heresy. Physically, he reminds me a little bit of Gennady Golovkin. He's an unmovable type of guy. And even though Santillan did back him up in a lot of spots, but he took those shots and he ended up wearing Santillan down. So, Norman is and here's the other thing. Prograis, he started boxing late. So he didn't have, and he lacks that base. Norman doesn't like that base. He's got a better stance than Prograis. He doesn't dip forward. He doesn't fall off balance coming forward like Prograis did. He's got a classic stance. Shoulders look a little bit more even and balanced down the middle. And he can punch with either hand. Whereas Prograis
this kid grew up in the gym. You know, he grew up in the gym, and Prograis, everyone knows he kind of started boxing late. So even though they might be similar in their style in a little bit of a way, right, that they kind of like to bang it out, they're not. They're not the same fighter. They're much different. So I think this is kind of a nightmare matchup for the Haneys. How are they going to look good, BDA? How can Devin Haney look good in this fight unless he tries to fight him like Timothy Bradley fought Ruslan Provodkinov?
That's true. That's true. Again,
how can he look good?
Well, I mean, again, it remains to be seen how Norman's going to deal with the movement, because that's how you figure. The Haneys would have to be insane. It would be suicide for him, for Devin Haney to go at Brian Norman. If Santillan couldn't do it, and Haney can handle himself on the inside in clinches and all that, but it's one thing to do it against Jorge Linares at 135 when you get a weight advantage over the guy. When you weigh 165 pounds over an old Linares, it's easy to fight on the clinch against him or against Gamboa. It's another thing to deal with a guy like Brian Norman. So there's always a path to victory. Whenever I look at a fight, and Haney has a couple of things going for him in this fight. He's got a good jab. He is quick. He does know how to use his range. But, I mean, you just got to wonder, how's he going to deal? If they allow him to clinch, he's got a good chance at winning.
Well, I'm just saying, like, even if he does win, how does he win? Like, if he wins like he did if he fights like he did against Jose Ramirez, but that's a nightmare situation for them again. No one's gonna want to see them fight. Like, Turkey's not gonna give him another chance, I don't think. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you get out of this situation not looking bad, win or lose?
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. And then, by the way, there's a guy in the chat by the name of Inside the Squared Circle with King Judah. You just know this guy did some time. And he says, y'all can't have a show without hating. Again, the word hate. Like, I don't think you understand what hating means. We don't hate Devin Haney. We just like to make fun of him a little bit and criticize him for the valid criticism that's there. But hate...
Let me read this video.
Go ahead.
Y'all can't have a show without hating on Devin. He took a fight. Y'all thought he wouldn't. Have to keep what the fuck? Hey, yo. Okay, anyways. To keep from praising him, you accuse him of PEDs, yet you give Ryan a pass for PEDs. That's shaking my head.
That's right.
Who said anything about who said anything about giving Ryan a pass for taking PEDs?
These people imagine
he did the crime. He did his time. It's over with. We moving on.
Exactly. Same thing they do with Victor Conte, apparently. By the way,
Victor Scante, he did the crime. He did his time. We're moving on, right?
That's right. Shout out to what the fuck? Shout out to Bulbous Balls. Bulbous. How do you pronounce it? Again, I'm Mexican, so you gotta give me some leeway.
Bulbous,
right. Bulbous Balls. I think that's Pigeon, by the way. Yeah, it is Pigeon. It says, from PPP. That's Prince Pigeon, by the way. Fire Pigeon, Mexican boxing #1. Well, it's one of the top boxing styles, that's for sure. Shout out to Bulbous Balls, a.k.a. Pigeon, aka Prince Pigeon. It's interesting. Yeah, people again, it's I'm seeing a lot of people besmirching the Mexican style more than ever, more than before. I don't understand why. And people say, "Oh, the Mexican style, flat-footed, it's garbage." Then how come it's been around successfully for 80 years? Guys like Ruben Olivares, Zarate, Chavez, Canelo Alvarez, Marco Antonio Barrera was a seek and destroy guy, flat-footed. Well, I don't understand this. For a flat-footed culture of fighters, they certainly do seem to have a lot of success. So I don't understand why people keep harping on the whole Mexican style as if it's a derogatory term. But shout out to Prince Pigeon for his comment and his super chat.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that whole thing disrespecting Mexican fighters, that kind of started with this little Floyd Mayweather era, right? Because he would target these guys that were flat-footed, usually Hispanic. They weren't always Mexicans, but who cares, right? If you speak Spanish or Mexican. So he would target these kind of flat-footed fighters. And then, that little reputation came, oh, this flat-footed Mexican's flat-footed Mexican. I forgot who said that. I can't remember where who I heard say that, right? Because I'm echoing someone else's words right now. Back in the 80s, the 90s, in the very early 2000s, people weren't saying anything like that about Mexican fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Barrera, Sanchez, Julio Cesar Chavez, they weren't flat-footed punching bags. They all had lots of skills and stuff like that. So that term only came around very recently with, like I said, the way Floyd Mayweather marketed his career.
Yeah, and Chavez had a flat-footed style, but he had the defense, like you mentioned, that prevented.
He wasn't punching, man.
That to me is the zenith of boxing, when you can pressure guys, put them on the back foot, tire them out with your footwork, and they can't hit you back as easily. Because again, putting pressure on somebody, you're opening up yourself for counter punches. That's a dangerous thing. You're putting your hand out of the cage, as Bernard Hopkins used to say. But if you're running around the ring, like Gonzalo made a great point. Gonzalo said, look, because I was criticizing Canelo for the one punch at a time thing, or what I call the jackhammer style, or the sledgehammer style. Not jackhammer, that's another thing. That's from my old industry days. But the sledgehammer approach, which is the sledgehammer approach, which is one punch at a time. I said I'm not a big fan of that because it's boring. Because a lot of these recent Canelo fights, they look the same round after round. He drops a guy, then they go on the defensive, and then he just throws one punch at a time. It's uneventful, meandering, and it doesn't hold my interest. Then Gonzalo brought up a good point. He said, okay, yeah, that's true, BDA, but think about it. He's coming forward, throwing one punch at a time and dominating off of that. People don't give him credit for that. But when other guys do it off the back foot, throwing one punch at a time, running around the ring 30 seconds at a clip, throwing one punch at a time, then clinching, shaking their asses, they're called defensive geniuses. Oh, that's the sweet science. But when a guy does it coming forward, throwing one punch at a time, all of a sudden that's rudimentary, that's primitive. And I said, you know what, Gonzalo? When Gonzalo's right, he makes excellent points, man. I can't fault Canelo for that too much then. But it's just that style, that come forward style, it just gets disrespected too much. I don't get it.
It's all caught up in this American dominance, this idea of Americans being better at boxing than everyone else, and that's an American style. So that's why it's heavily favored by Americans, and that's why you've seen a lot of Americans really upset when Turkey said no more of this Tom and Jerry bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
We kind of know who's that's directed at indirectly.
There you go. And by the way, that's the other thing I've mentioned before, like just debunking some of these narratives that people bring out. And not that I don't want to paint myself as, I'm here to debunk narratives, because I don't. I want to talk boxing. But just real quick, one last one. Bill Haney said a couple of months ago that Afro-Anglo fighters have to do more to get a certain amount of credit, whereas Mexican fighters do less and get the same amount of credit. So in other words, what he's trying to get at is that Mexican fighters always get more credit than the Afro-Anglo fighters. And that's not true, because just a couple of days later, Tevin Farmer went the distance against Zepeda in the rematch, and nobody gave Zepeda any credit for beating Farmer and improving upon his first performance. Instead, the focus was on how Farmer was able to make it the distance and how brave he was. So that right there disproved Bill Haney's comments a couple of days later. He also said that Mexican fans will support their fighters no matter what. Well, again, that's another lie. Juan Manuel Marquez, when he was on the come-up, I'm talking 1999 to 2005, he was considered a boring fighter. to the point he had so little support, by the way, that when Top Rank dropped him, because he got into it with Top Rank, Marcus was forced to go to Indonesia to fight Chris John for $35,000, because Top Rank wasn't even willing to do the purse bid for that fight. So that's how little support Juan Manuel Marquez got. He was a hell of a fighter, but he was just so boring at the time in comparison to Rick Morales and Barrera that Mexican fighters didn't pay any attention to him, despite the fact that he was very successful. So again, just because a Mexican fighter is having success doesn't mean he will be supported. Another two examples, Miguel Canto, who's often been referred to as the Mexican Willie Pep, couldn't score knockouts, fought at a lower weight class. I think it was a super flyweight or bantamweight, just those weight divisions that a lot of people don't pay attention to. Whenever you bring up the greatest Mexicans of all time, people always bring up Chavez, Barrera, Canelo, Zarate, Olivares. They don't bring Canto up, all that, or Sanchez, Salvador Sanchez. Canto doesn't get brought up because he wasn't a puncher, he was a mover. And a couple of years ago, Miguel El Títere Vázquez was outboxing people. He had the ass style, by the way, or the mass style, Mexican American slick style. He was a Mexican American, by the way, but I'm just adding the mass style, the massa style. And he was boring as hell. Running around the ring, clinching. They called him, El Títere means the puppet, because he fought like a marionette puppet, just all over the place, very gangly, horrible style to watch. He was winning. He had a good winning streak. He pulled a bunch of upsets. Nobody wanted to watch him fight. No Mexican support, very few Mexicans support him because he wasn't entertaining. So no, Mexicans will not support anybody just because they're Mexican. Mexicans support guys who go out there and make a fight, who go out to look for the fight. And if they can do that and be skillful at the same time, you get yourself a star. So Bill Haney, I often get accused of don't talk about the Afro-Anglo culture because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know it. You're not an Afro-Anglo, so you shouldn't talk about it. Nobody else says that, by the way. No other group says that. The Asians don't say that. The Arabs don't say that. Other Hispanics don't say that. Like, don't talk about stuff you don't know about. Afro-Anglos are the only ones that say that. But then again, by that logic, Bill Haney shouldn't be talking about Mexicans then because he's not Mexican. He doesn't have a hold across the culture of what Mexicans think. I'm Mexican, so I guess by that logic, I can speak about Mexicans. And I'm telling you, Mexicans, we won't support a guy who's boring, who fights in the ass style, who back foot bitches it. We won't support a guy who does that, whether he's Mexican, Arab, whether he speaks to Allah and gets prophecies from Allah like Devin Haney's half-brother or whatever he is, half-skin brother, half-breed. That's just a fact. I'm giving you the facts. Sobers, I'm sorry for ranting here, but that's just, I think that the black tea is hitting me now, the caffeine.
No, bro, go. You're on a roll, man.
Well, thank you. But I wanted to ask you then, so Haney versus Norman. First of all, do you even think it gets to November? Or do you think something's going to happen where someone's going to pull out or some hijinks?
I feel like Devin Haney's going to find a way out of this fight. I don't think there was a smart move to sign this fight. I don't think there is a way for him to come out of this looking good. So, because if he fights him and he wins, it's going to be in the ugliest way. He's not going to go toe-to-toe with this dude. Like I brought up earlier, he's not going to go in there like Timothy Bradley did against Ruslan Provodkinov and like try to prove a point and say, I'm actually pretty tough. Watch me go toe-to-toe with this puncher. I don't see Devin Haney doing that because if he does, he's getting knocked the fuck out. Mm-hmm. And he actually might get more respect that way than if he were to go in there and fight like he did against Jose Ramirez and get a win. So it's really hard for me to see how this guy can come out of the situation looking good because you might get knocked the fuck out if you really try to fight this dude. And if you beat him, the way I see you beating him is going to look exactly like he did against Jose Ramirez, or if not worse. So I think they're going to find a way out of this. I think they're clout chasing. They're acting like they want to fight. They're going to pump it up. They're going to be yip yapping and jump jacking. But what I've already seen was Bill Haney and Richardson Hitchens, John back and forth, acting like they want to make a fight happen. So who knows if they do a what's it called, the Guatemalan snatch away, where they make you think they're gonna fight Brian Norman Jr. and then they end up fighting Richardson Hitchens. It's a safer fight.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't be surprised because by the way, we're in the month of June. I know the Sheik is the one who decides all of this, but why are they holding that fight all the way into November? They couldn't set that up for September or October. That's weird. That they would. I mean, that's fucking November. They haven't even said which day in November, by the way. But if it's close to, that's a long way away. Anything can happen from here on in. So I don't know. It is weird. And like you said, a Hitchens fight is more winnable for Devin Haney than a fight against Norman, which he could get hurt in that one, seriously hurt. And that's the thing about Brian Norman is I'm hopefully people don't think that I'm falling in the moment here or falling victim to the moment, but I've seen enough Brian Norman now to see, again, I don't know how he's going to handle a mover, long range boxer, but this dude has quick hands. He's got good timing. He can crack with both hands. He's incredibly strong and durable. I'm really interested in seeing how he handles a mover, but I tell you what, if Norman and Ennis were to fight right now, whether a 150, catch weight or whatever, or full 154, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I really do think that because Norman right now, again, limited opposition to be sure, but right now he looks like he has better fundamentals than Jaron Ennis, who constantly drops his hands, over relies on rolling with the shots. Whether he's on the defensive or on the offensive, gets hit a lot, Ennis does. And again, I guess you could say the same thing about Norman. But I just like Norman, how he keeps his hands up. He was blocking a lot of those left hooks from Sasaki. And what little he couldn't block, he just took it like it was nothing, brushed it off. I'm telling you, Sobers, I don't know if I'm crazy, but I know a lot of people are high on Ennis. They're claiming he's going to be the next pound-for-pound king. I think Brian Norman's right there with him if they ever fight. 50-50 fight. What say ye?
I say Atlanta stand up. The South got something to say. That's what I say.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's right. Fellow Georgian right there. Speaking of Georgia, the country, I didn't catch the UFC fight. I should have watched that instead of the fucking Jake Paul main event. Ilya Topuria, I don't know how you pronounce his name. Topuria, yeah. Just real quick, segueing into MMA a little bit. How good is that dude, and how good is the guy that he could potentially fight? The guy who stepped into the octagon, who looked like a rock star from the 1970s, Brian Pimbley, or whatever his name is, Irish-looking guy.
Oh, Paddy Pimblett?
Yeah, Paddy Pimblett, yeah.
Well, he's like ripping through the divisions, right? And he knocked out a couple guys that they were calling goats. He's one of the best. He's one of the best fighters in the division in history, whatever. He's knocking him the fuck out back to back to back. That what he did with and he's doing it in a way that's brutal, right? If you've seen the knockout of Charles Oliveira,
I did,
he dropped him, and the dude was staring off into outer space, and then he gave him two more hammer punches. Jeez. Bouncing his head off the canvas. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad the way he knocked him out, and that guy Oliveira has the most fights in the UFC, I think. Like, he has like a record. He has the most fights in there, or like the most finishes, and no one's ever done that to him, right? So this guy's a real deal. It's really funny, BDA, because there's a connection with boxing here.
Mm-hmm.
He was in an interview, and they asked him, like, what kind of fighters inspire you? Who do you try to emulate? And he said a lot of his style is based off Canelo. He said, we watch a lot of Canelo, and we try to fight like that. And then when you see the footage of them, next to each other, you can see he really does try to emulate Canelo. So basically, that's what he is in MMA. And we see and he's funny because he's a little guy, and he just got a lot of power. And with clean boxing, you can dominate as long as you can stay on your feet. You have enough good. I think he has a Greco-Roman wrestling background, so he's good enough to not get dominated on the ground. He can keep the fight on the feet. And yeah, bro, he just knocks these dudes the fuck out. And he's a real deal. That guy, Paddy Pimblett, he's gonna knock him the fuck out. That guy is a classic MMA fighter who kind of likes to brawl. He's a ground game kind of fighter. So his best bet is to take this little dude down and try to choke him out. If he tries to fight him like a man, he's gonna get knocked the fuck out. So
try to fight him like a man. I like how you frame things, by the way. That if he takes him down, that's not manly. But yeah, listen,
BDA, when you want someone on top of you, gyrating their hips on you, trying to get a dominant, quote unquote, dominant position on you.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. That's not what I go for.
Would you want to be in a north-south position? Where your heads are in between each other's thighs? Like, what the fuck?
No, that's why I don't do this jiu-jitsu thing. I mean, I understand it works and all that, but I can't do it.
Play my game, yeah. We'll play hard, too. Play with you. We'll play hard, too. Go!
Come on. What's going on here? Silvers, why are you playing all that? Let's get serious.
My bad. Sorry, everyone.
It's not funny, man. I don't know why you keep laughing.
It's hella funny, though.
It's not funny, man. Stop saying that. And stop coughing, too, while you're at it. There's that never sobers laugh. Hey, what happens if I... These are evil sobers. Hey, you sound like the Predator.
Oh shit,
there.
it's kind of scary, bro.
You sound like the Predator at the end when he's about to explode.
What the hell are you? that's perfect, bro. That's hilarious.
I'm gonna send it to you. But no, yeah, you're right. You know what? A lot of people say that about MMA, that the lay and pray guys, those are the guys that just take somebody down and they just lay on them. They don't even ground and pound. They just lay on top of them. That's the equivalent of the ass style in MMA. And yeah, it's true. There should be something done about that because it just ain't good. So it's unentertaining. It's boring.
It's the worst. It's like taking advantage of the rules. It's like being a clincher. No one wants to see that. Like a punch and clinch kind of guy. No one wants to see that shit.
Exactly. I mean, if you take a look at some of the most entertaining UFC fights of all time, take a look at the list. Almost all of them involved a lot of striking, or mostly striking, because that's what people want to see. And I think that's why boxing, done properly at its best, when the rules are applied, which prevents people from dipping below the waist, clinching, running, that's when boxing is at its best. By the way, I don't know if that's the real Matt Chad in the chat. I can't see if that's the real him. Contact me on Discord. I already told you a bunch of times, man. We got to do that music episode on Rumble. We can do it on Rumble. He keeps saying, yo, I'm going to do it, BDA. Yeah, BDA, you're the best. But then he doesn't reply to me. How can I be the best if you refuse to reply to me, Matt Chad? Something's not adding up. You better call. You better call me. All right? What was the name of that? You remember that movie there, that David Lynch movie where the guy shows up with the phone? Call me. Fuck, what was that?
Hell no.
He's the actor that was accused of murdering his wife. He used to be in the Little Rascals, I think. Anyway, forget about it. Nobody knows what I'm talking about because they're not 85 years old like I am. So real quick, back to the Haney thing. Brian Norman. Yeah, I think that's a fight that hopefully it happens because I'm curious to see what happens. I want to see how Norman handles the guy who moves. And maybe the Haneys are finally desperate. I mean, think about it. Sobers, I played this clip a couple of episodes ago on the morning show where Haney was in New York, Bill Haney that is. He's like, I'm looking for Teofimo Lopez. Where the Lopez at? It's like, oh man, it just reeks of desperation of guys that know their time is up. Nobody wants to watch them fight anymore. The few fans that they have are looking bad too, defending these idiots. And it's just looking bad for them. So maybe it is desperation, man.
You got cucks like King Jude in the chat saying he don't duck nobody. You guys always hating on him. Like, bro, he fucking sucks, dude.
Exactly.
Get over it.
Yeah, I mean, it's when he had that weight advantage at 135, he was looking good, but he has not been looking good at all.
No, I disagree, BDA. How can you be way bigger than your opponents, way more muscular? You look way stronger, right? They can't push you off them, but you can't hurt nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And then you fight like you're scared. You fight like you're in there with Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I can't believe anybody would defend the Haneys. I mean, I got to tell you, in real life, if I meet somebody who's defending the Haneys, first of all, I'm pretty sure I'm going to notice that they're Haney fans just by the way they smell. Probably bad hygiene, no deodorant. Probably their clothes smell like piss. I wouldn't get anywhere near them. I just think Haney fans, nature tells you to stay away from something, and I think that's the way it works with Haney fans. Just that the body odor, the BO, lets you know these people are Haney fans. Also, the stupidity, just that they don't understand arguments. You explain things to them, and they just don't. It doesn't compute with them. I hate to say,
like this, BDA. Why does Haney have to be desperate? Why can't you just admit he wants the toughest fights? Even if you dislike his style, he's taking a fight nobody thought he would take. Look, J. Cool, I'm telling you, I don't think he's going to make it to the ring. I don't think that fight's happening. They're talking about it. They're yapping about it. Doesn't mean they're going to fight.
J. Cool sounds anything but cool. Oh, you see what I did there?
He sounds J. Pressed.
he sounds depressed. That's what he sounds like. I think he knows that Haney's time is up. And look, listen, hey, Haney could pull off the win. It's a long shot, but that's why they fight the fights. But it is quite interesting why they're taking this fight. And we already outlined why we think it's a desperation move. But again, a lot of these David Haney fans, they just don't want to, either they don't want to hear it or they don't understand the points we're making. So It's I'm not gonna. I don't like dealing with these people all that much anymore. But it is an interesting fight, and yeah, that Tupiro, whatever his name is, that's a fight. That's a fighter that I can get behind. No pun intended.
Ooh.
No pun intended. No pun intended. But
What the fuck you doing? Nothing. I was here. It's a joke. Sal, please. It's a fucking joke.
that's what you say when you get caught in a gay bar. What the fuck you doing in a gay bar? No, it's a joke. Vito, that's
It's just research. I was just doing research.
Imagine somebody says
That's what
that,
the guy who was running the long flu said he did, right?
The guy who was who? What?
Running the long flu. What was his name? The Anthony Fauci.
What about him?
He said, I think I heard something about him going to gay clubs like in the 80s or the 90s to try like find research
for doing
how
the
people
AIDS
are getting
thing.
AIDS.
Yeah, okay, yeah, come on. Yeah, you can tell. He's a little short guy, by the way. So back in the 80s when he was a little bit younger, he
was a twink. Right.
Yeah, he was probably. And that's the other thing, though. It's Daniel Craig, too, James Bond. He said once, I think he said this, don't quote me on this, but I think he said something along the lines of, oh, yeah, I go to gay bars because I don't get hassled as much. People, whenever I go to a regular bar, people always want to pick fights with me. I'm thinking, well, why are so many people wanting to pick fights with you in a regular bar? Maybe it's because you're hating on them? Is that the problem? And that's why nobody bothers you at a gay bar?
Hey, it's James Bond. I could take you on.
No, it's something weird, man. Something weird. Didn't Southpaw Lefty say he also likes to go to gay bars because there's hot chicks there or something?
Because he said the music's good.
The music? No, he didn't say that.
He said the music's always better.
Nah, come on, no. He didn't say that.
And you can approach the women. They're more disarmed. They're more comfortable. It's easier to slide in your roofies in their drinks because they think you're gay.
No.
So like they'll drink out of the same cup as you.
Like he definitely didn't say that, man. Come on, man. What's the matter with you? Yeah, but he said that the music's better. I think that's why one day Southpaw Lefty called in and you could hear music in the background. And let me just play you this clip here. This is what he was listening to in the background. Yeah, now I think I understand what he was calling from a gay bar. Now, but shout out to Southpaw Lefty. He's a good guy. But what was I going to say about that? Oh, yeah. So before we get into this, I don't know why you started making these salacious jokes there, Solvers, but I was trying to talk about the guy there, the Tupuria, whatever his name is. He's entertaining, man. But you know what, though? It's always interesting with the UFC. I've said it before. You got guys that are on top who look invincible. They win the title, and then 2 defenses later, boom, they get their asses knocked out, and then 3 more fights, they get their asses knocked out again, and then you never see them again. Why is that happening in MMA so often?
Well, because I think that because if you're gonna get to the top of MMA, dude, there at right now there is some favorable matchups. You know, they will help you out a little bit, but no matter what, you're gonna go through the gauntlet. You're gonna fight the guys at the top. You know, and especially if you get the belt. You know, there's only so much protecting they do there. Their roster is limited, so they can't just They can't just get some random paisa from a jungle in Oaxaca to have you defend your title against. You know what I'm saying? Like when you do your voluntary defenses and then you can't do that shit in the UFC. So like you have a hard fight after hard fight. And that's kind of what happens to their legends, right? Their goats. That's why someone like Topuria is running through their guys, because Max Holloway and Volkanovski, they all have had a hard resume. They all have a hard schedule. So on top of fighting this dude who hits like a truck, before they fought him, they're all fighting each other, the other guys at the top. So they were having hard fights themselves. You get what I'm saying? Like these guys, they get put through the ringer basically. So they get used up pretty good. They're still by day pretty fast.
That makes a lot of sense. You're right. They don't give them 20 gimme fights before they get to a world title. Although it's starting to change in boxing too. You're starting to see guys like Keyshawn Davis, a couple of years ago, Josh Taylor, Lomachenko, all these guys before they had... In Japan, they've always done it, but that way, by the way. But you're seeing it more here in North America too, where before these guys barely have 20 fights, they're already getting title shots. And that's partially too because these guys only fight twice a year. So there's a lot of factors. But yeah, it's interesting. The MMA, they get, especially the UFC, they get matched up tough. No gimmies. So maybe that explains why they get knocked their, off the pedestal real quick. Also, the other thing, somebody in the chat says, Jacob Alamo says they also get injured more. That's also true. I've seen it at my gym, by the way. People are rolling because it's a boxing and MMA gym. A lot of these MMA guys, the rolling thing, that could be dangerous and takes its toll on the knees, the ligaments. You fall on top of a guy wrong. Next thing you know, that the guy's out for 3 days, 3 days, 3 weeks or more or months, and it's dangerous, man. Rolling, putting people in submissions. And also, I remember George St. Pierre, who, by the way, we're talking about doping. You have to assume that this guy was on something because he used to say, oh yeah, I train 3 times a day. He used to do what they call 3 a days training. And I'm thinking, what the fuck are you doing? How are you training 3 times a day? It's insane. So maybe it's also these guys are on something and they're training their body so hard that, okay, the muscle can recover, but the ligaments can't. They can't keep up with the pace, the high octane, high tempo pace. And they end up pulling ligaments or pulling joints or shit like that. And maybe that also contributes to the injuries. By the way, Matt Chad, I called out Matt Chad to come on the second Renaissance, and he didn't even answer. See, he likes to talk the talk.
I haven't seen him in the chat.
I haven't seen him since I called him out. He disappeared.
But was it Matt Chat or was it the Tavern? Because his name on the chats is the Tavern.
I don't even see the Tavern anymore either. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm trying to find out if he's still there. He's not.
Yeah, right. I don't think I ever saw him. I'm saying if someone's using the name Matt Chat, I don't think that was him.
I guess Matt Chat doesn't want to do that music episode. I've had it with him. I've had it with you, Matt Chat. I've had it. No more music shows. Mm-hmm. Who else we got here? Hold on. Let me read a couple of comments here. Mr. Pelavaca says Southpaw is black, right? Now, well, he says he's of Mexican descent. Bulbous Ball says Chad ducking the TBS smoke. Okay, well, I don't think TBS is, he doesn't have a channel anymore. Hard Rico says Ferguson, for example, has many losses, but he still fought. Desperado says they were all on PEDs. Conk Rapid, I don't think that's a real Rapid, says Julio. Says Julio. Real Food TV.
Julio!
Real Food TV says GSP took shit till he saw aliens. Yeah, remember that he was telling Joe Rogan, he was being serious, that he used to have close encounters of the third kind. In his
you know what's fucked up, BDA?
What's that?
You know what's fucked up about the whole thing? This guy was being open about his extraterrestrial experience, and he was telling everybody, right? He expected people to believe him because he's like, yo, guys, I'm GSP. You guys know me. And you know what? You know what everyone says to him? Bro, he has brain damage. He has CTE. Oh, my God, this guy's lost his mind. What if he's not lying about that shit? What if he's being completely honest and open about it? What if he really was fucking abducted? And they fucked with him. You know what I mean? And that's how he got that weird HGH gut. And it's not HGH. He's clean.
You got real passionate about that there. It's like,
no, I'm saying, like, because look, BDA, when you talk about this on Second Renaissance, you mention this. When people have these kind of encounters, they're scared to talk about it. They're scared to be open about it because they say everyone's going to tell me I'm crazy. No one's going to believe me. And look at this situation where someone who of prominence is saying, hey, guys, you guys know me. You guys trust me, whatever. This happened to me. And they're like, oh, my God, he has brain damage. He's half retarded. Oh, my God, he's punch drunk. And that's kind of fucked up, bro. No one believes him.
Yeah, then you make a good point, but I'm just saying the way you got very passionate is like, he's speaking out of the heart. Why won't anyone believe me? I mean, why won't anyone believe him? Him. I'm talking about me. Like, why won't anyone
believe me?
Sounds like you were talking from personal experience. Like you've had some close encounters too. No, but you're right though. It's they call them silent contactees, or that's what John Keel used to call them. These people that get contacted by aliens. But these people never tell anybody. Because again, anytime somebody comes out and says, oh, I'm speaking with aliens, there's a couple of things that go through people's minds. A, oh, this guy's crazy. B, he's doing it for clout, like they say in the streets. He's doing it for attention. Or he's doing it for money. Well, there's not that much money to be made claiming that you talk to extraterrestrials, because again, the first thing that goes through people's minds is this guy's crazy. So nobody's going to listen to a nut job. Second of all, the market is saturated. Or oversaturated when it comes to aliens and extraterrestrials. So it takes a little bit something a little bit more impressive or outlandish to catch people's attention than, oh, yeah, I talked to aliens. So a lot of these people don't want to tell anybody because, like you said, they're afraid of being accused of being crazy or nut jobs, lunatic fringes or whatever. So they don't do that. So a lot of that people, you have to wonder how many people actually do experience this type of things, and they keep it on the hush hush because they're afraid of how they're going to be seen. And by the way, something real quick, somebody that has shame about that is usually somebody that's healthy. Because a person that has no shame, those are the people that I watch out for. The people that say, man, I don't give a shit, man. Shit, I go Toys R Us, I pick him up at Toys R Us. That's where it's easy, man. Shit. That's
loophole, man.
Yeah, the people that have no shame, those are the people that I'm worried about. Because now I'm thinking, well, if you're not ashamed of this particular instance, what are you ashamed about? And if the answer is nothing, then you're a dangerous individual. Type of individual that pulls out guns during web streams. But what else? I'm just, rap sheet a mile long. Two Matadors says nobody's going to admit that they had a cavity search. Man, that's what they do. LL says, I was here. It's a joke. Yeah, he's doing the video thing. Al Cuerpo Boxy says, Mirage is definitely an alien lost in space. Yeah, he's lost in his own space, that's for sure. His own homosexual space. No, I'm kidding. Grim Reaper says, it's not hard to believe aliens are real. Space is wham. The hell is that? Space is wham. Is that slang for it's cool or something? I don't know. The Real Food TV says, let's listen to the dude that took head kicks. Yeah, that's a good point, man. See, Sobers, the Real Food TV doesn't believe you. I mean, doesn't believe GSP and his stories about aliens.
Well, that guy doesn't have any signs of being punch drunk, does he? He doesn't slur his words. He sounds still pretty intelligent, right?
Well, you talking about Food TV or GSP?
I'm talking about Food TV.
Well, did I hear this correctly? Because I wasn't
I'm talking about GSP. I'm playing around.
Okay. No, but I wanted to bring that up. I wasn't there for yesterday's show or for the entirety of yesterday's show, but did I hear correctly that Food TV had Chavez winning the fight? That he scored the fight for Chavez against Jake Paul?
Yes.
See, I don't know what to think of that because Food TV, he's very creative, he's funny, so that means he's not autistic or he doesn't have Asperger's. I don't think, because usually those people don't have a sense of humor, and he has some good takes. But to say that you had Chavez winning, that he scored a fight for Chavez when he didn't do shit for the first 7.5 rounds, I gotta ask. Now it's like with people that say they saw aliens. Are you fucking with me? Are you just doing this for clout? Are you just saying this to be provocative? I gotta know.
Ask him get on panel and explain himself because I can't do that for him.
I invited him. Hopefully he shows up. How do you have Chavez winning the fight? I don't get it. Did he only watch the last 2 rounds and then assume that that's how the whole fight went? Maybe that's what happened.
He said that he was scoring it. He said he was very focused in on the fight.
By the way, Food TV in the chat says Joe Rogan wanted full details on how GSP got probed by the aliens. Come on.
Did you climax? I mean.
He's the guy. Joe Rogan is the guy that said that he went to the Barbie movie and liked it. And then he rolls his eyes up like, I loved the movie. He rolls his eyes up as he says that. Not in a sarcastic way, but in a kind of like, you know what? Why am I describing this to you? I'll show it to you. It was weird. Joe Rogan sometimes, I don't know. Look, I don't want to play weed. I know you're into the weed and all that, Sobers. Oh, I don't have the clip. Fuck.
Yeah, because you're trying to talk shit about smokers, man. That's what you get.
I know, man. I fucked up.
Look, just because you can't get weed smokers mixed up with dick smokers. It's not the same thing, okay?
Oh, wait a minute. Food TV says Chavez did nothing for the first 3 rounds. There you go. So how much did he actually do thereafter? I didn't see him doing jack squat until after the maybe the 8th round, and even then, I think it was just that last half of the 8th round.
Listen.
By the way, this is something I wanted to play. I think I played this on Second Renaissance, but it bears repeating how sometimes people see, and again, we're talking about Haney fans and how they see what they want to see and they refuse to acknowledge the good points that people make vis-a-vis Haney. Same thing with people who watch movies. This is Joe Rogan talking with Zack Snyder, the guy who directed 300 and all these other movies. Listen to how his interpretation of Star Wars, the scene where Luke Skywalker, the first movie, by the way, where he's at a bar and gets confronted by a guy who looks like a walrus and some other ugly dude.
I like the Barbie movie. Okay.
Oh no, actually, this is the Barbie one that I was talking about. Look at this.
Okay. I found it enjoyable.
Awesome.
I went with my daughters and I had a good mindset. I said, let me just enjoy this movie.
Sure.
Just not be like, what the fuck is this? Man didn't fuck this. I just said, this is a fun movie.
Yeah.
It didn't offend me. I laughed a bunch. Essentially, long form comments are what a lot of articles are.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
That's exactly what they are.
It's these people that are film snobs that get, very, very pretentious about certain.
I mean, he does make a good point. You got to enjoy what you enjoy, but the way he describes it, that's what people are focusing on.
Certain aspects of movie making and decide that their way is the only way. Like, listen, I like the Barbie movie. Okay,
see that how he put his eyes up?
Enjoyable,
awesome.
And then Zack Snyder's just going along with it. Awesome, cool, yeah. Like as soon as Joe,
awesome, cool. I love the gays as well.
Yeah, I love sucking dick. You ever notice that that's what these people who go on Rogan do? They're all hopped up on caffeine, I think. And I think that's one of the problems. And they're all talking about every time Joe Rogan says something like, you know what? This dude is such a nice dude. Yeah, yeah. Right, yeah, yeah. They're just agreeing with Joe Rogan. It's weird. Same thing with Zack Snyder.
Well, there's like an economy around him, right? So if you kiss the ring, he'll put you on and you can make a lot of money. So he's surrounded by yes men, and it's very obvious that he's like a fruity gym dude, right? Like he's a gay dude that like really into his body. It's kind of like an archetype for gay guys. The gay gym bro, and I think that's what very obviously Joe Rogan is, and everyone around him just kind of, I don't know, they try to go along with this tough guy act and just trying to get some clout off him.
Well, you said that they're trying to kiss the ring. I think you're talking about the ring in the middle of his asshole. I think that's the
brown ring.
Talking about. The brown ring, because that's all they do. Okay, I found the clip that I was talking about. This is Zack Snyder talking about that scene in the first Star Wars movie where Luke Skywalker gets accosted and harassed by these unsavory characters, alien characters.
The thing you can do, I feel like the thing that you can do with that format was you could really.
By the way, this dude is a multi-millionaire. Why is he wearing a shirt that looks like he stole it from a homeless guy? It's got holes. It's yellow. The fuck is this guy on about?
The collar's all stretched out and shit. Doesn't look like he threw it in the dryer.
Yeah, like was he rolling with Rogan before going on the show? What is this?
Right, exactly.
Construct sci-fi. Like we always talk about, like I said this at the Directors Guild, like when Luke Skywalker walks into the cantina and like is confronted by Walrus Man, like is that sexual? Like is he like
what?
He's fucking with Luke. Luke's like some farm boy in this bar, in this rough.
He said that actually went through his mind, Sobers. This dude, film director, it went through his mind that, hey, when Luke gets accosted by those alien creatures at the bar and they start messing with him, like, he doesn't like you. I don't like you either. Is that sexual? Because he's a country bumpkin farm boy, and therefore there's something. What is this?
I don't know. That's weird. They still those guys that wanted to talk to him, that were talking mean to him. They must wanted to fuck him. What kind of weird connection in his mind?
Oh. That's what goes through his mind when he's watching a movie. Is this sexual?
Oh! You're
when are they gonna? When are Han Solo and Anakin Skywalker gonna fuck?
When's he gonna give him the lightsabers? Like what? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Everyone knows the lightsaber is an analogy for a dildo, right?
Exactly. Well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Huh? You gonna fucking get sassy with me here, boy? Huh?
I mean, I gotta tell you, I don't know what's going on, but it reminds me of those people, especially feminists, that watch, it's usually women, I don't know why, they watch the Lord of the Rings, the movies, or they read the books, and they go, oh yeah, Frodo and Sam, they were gay. They were clearly gay lovers. Like, what? I can't listen. It's too early in the morning to wrap my brain around that nonsense. Sobers, anything else you want to talk about? Anything that we missed here? Anything you want to talk about?
Let me just reiterate what I was saying yesterday on the show, because I'm going to keep saying this shit. I try to coin the term the great Mandingo hope. Mm-hmm. You know, we've first seen this phenomenon with Deontay Wilder. You know, there's been a downgrade in the American dominance in boxing, and you know, Americans are used to having that
through the 70s, like basically the last century, right? And it's going away now. I think the last American black fighter that really dominated the space was Floyd Mayweather, right? And ever since he kind of left, they've been looking for another person to fill that vacuum. And like I said, the first they thought was Deontay Wilder, and they thought he could beat up Tyson Fury. He did all that shit, and like, you know, people talk about, oh, don't make it racial, whatever. Deontay Wilder told Tyson Fury, "I'm gonna make you part of Black history." You know what I'm saying? Because they fought on Black History Month, and then he got his ass knocked out. And then there was that whole coping thing about it afterwards, right? There's no way that it could have been a legit ass whooping. He had cheated. And then they parlayed that into 3 fights, right? And then they found out that Deontay Wilder is not who they thought he was. And now we're seeing the same thing with this guy Terrence Crawford, right? These guys in love with the old school boxing. They think he's a throwback. They think he's Charles Burley. They think he's Terry Norris. They think he's Julian Jackson. They think he's Aaron Pryor. They think he's Sugar Ray Leonard and Sugar Ray Robinson and Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler, fucking all these dudes. All these dudes rolled up into one big one. You know, he's all these guys into one new fighter. And he's gonna fulfill the legacy, fulfill the prophecy of beating the flat-footed Mexican in front of everybody, right? Because that's the narrative, and that's why I think this fight between Canelo and Crawford is so important, because it's gonna be it's a cultural phenomenon. It's gonna be a culture shock when you see 100 million people watching this fight, right? 50 million cucks, and they see that their hero, they see the great black hope get knocked the fuck out, get his head. Fucking his body split on the canvas and shit by a little ginger, and it's a turning point for boxing.
Well, by the way, that's Sobers' point. I'll say this: Afro Anglos, they are mostly concentrated, and I'm talking about American fighters as a whole, not just Afro Anglos. People usually conflate those two, and the only reason why I said that is because usually people bring that conflation over here. But American fighters, they're mostly concentrated right now in the lightweight division, some in the welterweight division, super welterweight, and that's pretty much it. There's no heavyweights, there's no cruiserweights, there's no light heavyweights, there's no middleweights, and there's certainly no top American fighters in the lower weight divisions, other than Stephen Fulton, who's right now at 126, which isn't really considered that much of a lower weight class. Usually lower weight classes are 118 and below. However, I'll say this about American boxing. I like the fact that it's healing from the Mayweather effect. It usually takes about 10 years for a new generation to pop up. And I think the generation that try to mimic Floyd Mayweather, like the Bertos, the Browners, they're going by the wayside now. And we're starting to see people who are being a little bit more entertaining. Brian Norman's more entertaining. Jaron Ennis is more entertaining. Keyshawn Davis. Yes, a lot of these guys are still weight bullies. They're still gaming the system. But at least they're being entertaining. They're no longer back foot bitching it. They're not doing the ass style with the excessive clinching. I mean, you still have your Devin Haney's and your Shakur Stevensons, but like I said, you've got Brian Norman, Jaron Ennis, Keyshawn Davis, Raymond Ford. He's not all that boring. He doesn't back foot bitch it. He could, but he doesn't. Kid Schofield is half Dominican, by the way. People forget that. Same thing with Shakur Stevenson. People forget he's half Puerto Rican. They always so yeah. We can't fully give him the full American heritage. But those guys, Keith Schofield looked good in his last fight. So, yeah, there's some hope for American boxing, and the fact that they are starting to be a little bit more entertaining. Who would have thought it, that if you want to be a star in boxing, you got to knock people out? And that back foot bitching, it doesn't work. Who would have thought that? It's amazing. It's an amazing concept. I can't believe more people didn't think about that before. Real quick, shout out to Greg Terrible for his contribution with the Super Chat. Shout out to Greg Terrible, and he says... What's he saying? He says, I need to say something on air. How can I join? Well, are you on... if you're not on Discord, let me know. Because if you are on Discord, then you just...
I think I've seen Greg Terrible on Discord.
Yeah?
On the open lines.
Okay, let me see if I can find him. I'll send him a link here. Open lines,
Listen to this comment. Don't forget Crawford is from the streets. Never underestimate a street fighter.
I mean, this ain't street fighting. I don't understand.
They're not going to fight in the streets. Yeah, like what the fuck? And on top of that, Canelo's from the streets too. Canelo was the little kid selling chiclets for 5 cents a pop.
Exactly. So I don't understand that logic. He's from the streets, so you get how many fighters were from the streets and they get their asses beat because there's inferior boxers. I'm sorry, I don't that logic or lack thereof is not
Did
something.
did the streets help Adrian Broner against Manny Pacquiao?
Exactly. By the way, I sent Greg Terrible an invite. Greg Terrible. I think have we talked to this guy before?
Yeah.
Because if he's gonna jump on and start talking about aliens and how they walked into his living room and had their way with him, I don't know if we wanna talk about that here. I listened to that in the Second Renaissance for sure. I'll listen to it over and over. I'll even be naked while hearing it. But here in a boxing show, I don't know if we want to go for that. But I sent him an invite. See if he jumps on. I know I see Fu TV is active too. Fu, you got to jump in just for a little bit and tell me, give us your breakdown of Chavez Paul and how you had Chavez winning that fight. How did you score that fight for Chavez? I gotta know. See, Fu,
I thought it was I thought that Chavez could have won if he wanted to. It looked like a sparring match. He was kind of like taking it easy on Jake Paul, but yeah, I want to say he won.
Pelavacas is saying, Mr. Pelavacas is saying Greg Terrible is Haney BDA. Yeah, I don't think so. Well, you never know. Hopefully, Buffering says everyone from the street fights southpaw but right-handed. You know what? That's a good point. I've noticed that a lot. Some people are fucking they're right-handed, but when they're fighting, all of a sudden they turn southpaw. I don't know if their brain snaps or something from the adrenaline, then they turn southpaw. Grim Reaper says, that sounds like a Fast and Furious line. I live my life a quarter mile at a time. I've never seen the Fast and the Furious. I mean, I've seen parts of it, but I've never seen...
Don't.
I'm sorry, man. What do you want from me?
I'm saying don't watch it. It sucks.
Oh, really? Okay. There you go. I won't watch it then. Dr. Danger Dog says... But okay, by the way, hold on. Is that a furry, or what do they call those guys? Because he's got a fox that looks anthropomorphic. Looks like
I think this is a fake profile, bro.
Well, he says Detroit is toughest city in America. In case you didn't know, Canelo still has an L. Sorry to say, he's too old to beat Crawford. Right, he's too old to beat Crawford.
Definitely a fake profile. Yeah.
Food TV says, I hate what boxing is entertaining. A lot of people on Twitter feel that way for some reason.
What is this, a fight?
Yeah, what is this, a fight? Are these guys actually throwing punches? What is this? I want to see clinching. I want to see dipping below the waist.
What are they doing? They're trying to kill each other.
Somebody call the cops and lock these people up for 40 years.
That's assault. That's assault.
I don't even know. Okay, so I sent to Greg Terrible an invite. I don't know if he sees it. I don't know if he's accepted my friend request. It says friend request set, so I don't know if he can see the invite unless he's accepted my friend request. So I don't know, man. I guess we'll stay on here for a little bit more. What else can we talk about? There was a rumor that Jaron Ennis, who is moving up to 154 now, there's a rumor that Murtazaliev offered him a fight, or that Murtazaliev's side offered him a fight, but that Ennis refused the fight because he didn't want a rehydration clause. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't heard anything from Ennis' side. Did you hear anything about that, Sobers?
No, but yeah, I can't see Jaron Ennis taking that fight anytime soon or ever.
I actually, you know what though? I've been watching a lot of the 154 pounders lately. I'm working a little something. And Murtazaliev, when he fought Kolke, when he let his hands go, he was lighting Murtazaliev up. The problem was Murtazaliev always came back with something heavier. But the thing about it is, a lot of these junior middleweights, they're all hittable. Same goes for Jaron Ennis. But what I'm saying is, they can all beat each other. No one's looked invincible at 154. Even Crawford, who is no longer at 154, but Ring Magazine, for some reason, still has him there. He didn't look invincible against Madrimov. Madrimov lost to Crawford, and then he lost to Ortiz. Ortiz didn't look invincible against Bohashuk. Bohashuk's already lost twice, got knocked out by Brandon Adams. So Tim Tszyu took a loss, Fundora took a loss. They all take losses. Everybody can beat everybody in that division. That's why some people can say it's one of the best divisions, or maybe one of the most disappointing, because there's no invincible guy. To me, it's one of the most entertaining because it's jam-packed with punchers, guys that can get hit, but who also hit back. So this whole concept of Jaron Ennis being able to overtake it, I don't know. And then the fact that he's doesn't want a rehydration clause at 154, he's just recently moved up and he still can't make weight properly. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows if he'll be there very long.
The guy looks like a middleweight, super middleweight even.
Well, there were some people. I remember Eddie Hearn said that Jaron Ennis is good enough to fight at light heavyweight.
Oh yeah, I saw that clip you were playing. Some guy goes, Jaron Ennis and Crawford can beat Canelo because when they go back to the corner, they can follow their instructions. They can adapt. I go, so Jaron Ennis, who struggled against the Karen, and who's being hit by guy flush and hurt by Lipinets and Sosa, and who gets hit clean constantly. All of a sudden, he's gonna go up to 168, and he's gonna be able to beat Canelo. I'm telling you, some of these people, I don't even know why we entertain what they have to say. The pigeon in the chat says Bakram Murtazaliev is a bum. Oh, well, we still don't know much about him. That's for sure. Food TV says,
I don't know. Why are you going to say, I don't know why we entertain some people? And they go, oh, Pigeon says.
No, yeah, you're right. No, but at least Pigeon has proven to be a contentious for sure, but nevertheless offers some interesting takes and raises some interesting questions as well. Listen, Greg Terrible, I sent him the invite. He's not replying, so I don't suppose he's going to be calling in anytime soon. And just to cap off the show, Food TV says, I had Chavez winning rounds 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. I tell you what, I'm going to rewatch the fight just to give Food TV the benefit of the doubt, see if he's onto something. But Sobers, do you agree with him?
I think he's trolling and he's trying to get us to watch the fight again, just to fuck with us.
I think that's what he's doing, yeah. You know what? I think you were exactly
right. You watched it twice, what a fag.
Yeah, I got you to watch the fight twice. Fucking homo. Cocksucker. All right. Well, listen, we've been on for, geez, Luis, 3 hours. Time to go. Got to go get a little breakfast. Sobers, thank you so much for jumping in, man. Always appreciate it. Glad you could jump in. Shout out to everybody that called in, everybody that donated with the super chat, everybody that came in here and commented and gave us their thoughts on anything and everything boxing. Shout out to Pancho Villa, Technique, Dex 2024, The Real Food TV, Prince Pigeon, Mr. Pelavacas, Dr. Danger Dog. Who else we had? Never Sobers, of course. Two Matador, Double L, Kidsters, Hurricane Hank, Greg Terrible. Hey, man, call in next time, man, if you really got something to say. Because I sent you the invite, and I don't think you got my my messages. And anybody else that joined us, if I missed anybody, it's because we got to go. Shout out to you fellas. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll try to come back as soon as possible. I'm thinking I got off very early today, and I didn't get the best of sleep. I didn't have the best of nights. So I don't know how I'm going to feel energy-wise later on, but I really want to do a second Renaissance. People have been clamoring for one over at Rumble. People want to see a second Renaissance. I got a couple of things ready already. So if I have the energy, I'll do that. So stay tuned for that one. Go check out the second Renaissance over at Rumble. That's the second Renaissance over at Rumble. And that's about it, fellas. Sobers, once again, thank you for joining us. We'll catch everybody on the next one, fellas. Take it easy. Thanks for watching. Woo-hoo.